quantum tunnel collapsed with a sound like reality screaming. One moment, the Avengers had been in the quantum realm, extracting energy samples for Bruce Banner's dimensional research. The next, space itself inverted, twisted, and spat them into a maelstrom of swirling blue energy that looked nothing like the subatomic landscape they knew. Tony Stark's HUD went haywire, displaying impossible readings as his Mark 85 armor's stabilizers fought against forces that defied conventional physics. "Friday, status report," Tony shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Boss, I'm detecting a massive spatial anomaly. We're no longer in..." The AI's voice cut to static, then resumed, recalibrating. "Sir, we're not in Earth's solar system. We're not in any star system I have on record. Unknown stellar cartography. Unknown galactic position." Thor's voice boomed across their comms. The Asgardian's form wreathed in crackling lightning as he stabilized himself in the void. "This is no realm I recognize. Not the Nine, not any world touched by Yggdrasil." The swirling hyperspace vortex spat them out above a planet that defied comprehension. It was a city, an entire world of city. Coruscant stretched below them, a globe wrapped in billions of lights, endless towers stabbing into the atmosphere, traffic lanes forming glowing rivers between continent-sized structures. The sheer scale of it froze even Tony for half a second. He'd seen alien worlds, he'd been to space, fought in Wakanda, traveled to Titan. But this was civilization on a level that made Earth's greatest metropolises look like villages. "Holy shit," Clint Barton breathed, his voice tight with awe. "Language," Steve Rogers said automatically, but his tone was hollow. Captain America's shield caught the light of an unfamiliar sun as he oriented himself, tactical mind already processing threats. "Tony, can you get us down safely?" "Working on it. Friday's having trouble with local gravity readings. Wait, I'm picking up thousands of energy signatures. No, millions. This planet is teeming with technology I've never seen before." Dr. Strange floated beside them, the cloak of levitation rippling as his hands traced glowing mandalas in the air. His expression was grave, eyes distant with concentration. The dimensional fabric here is different. Stable, ancient, but fundamentally alien to our reality. I can sense vast cosmic forces, but not the ones I know. Something else permeates this place. "Great, more mystical mumbo-jumbo," Tony muttered, but his attention snapped to his sensors. "Heads up, people. We've got incoming. Fast." 3 wedge-shaped vessels screamed toward them through the upper atmosphere, their hulls an angular gray-white that seemed purpose-built for intimidation. TIE fighters, though the Avengers had no name for them yet, shrieked past on twin-ion engines, their distinctive wail cutting through the thin air. Behind them, a much larger vessel descended, AT-STs, Gozanti-class cruiser bearing the stark symbol of the Galactic Empire. "Unidentified craft, you have violated Imperial airspace over the capital world." A cold voice transmitted across all frequencies. "Power down immediately and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will be met with lethal force." Natasha Romanoff's voice was ice calm. "Tony, translation software working?" "Yeah. Friday cracked their language in about 3 seconds. They're speaking, I don't even know what to call it. Basic? It's syntactically similar to, doesn't matter. They want us to surrender." "Not happening," Steve said firmly. "We don't know where we are or what we're dealing with. Everyone stay tight. Non-lethal responses only until we know what's going on." The cruiser's forward cannons swiveled, locking onto their position. Tony's threat assessment systems lit up like Christmas, tracking dozens of weapon emplacements, energy signatures that read similar to plasma but with different particle compositions. "Cap, I don't think they're giving us a choice." The first turbo laser bolt lanced through the space where Natasha had been a microsecond before. Clint grabbed her, his grappling arrow already firing toward a nearby traffic lane as the sky erupted in green energy fire. Thor's eyes blazed white-blue. They dare attack the Avengers. Lightning gathered around Stormbreaker as he raised the axe high. Let them learn the price of such arrogance. Thor, wait. Steve's warning came too late. The god of thunder hurled a lightning bolt that would have vaporized a Chitauri Leviathan. It struck the cruiser's forward shields, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then the shields flared, buckled, and exploded in a shower of sparks. The cruiser lurched, smoke pouring from breached conduits, but it stayed airborne, already adjusting its position. Okay, so they have shields, Tony said, repulsors charging. Good shields. Friday, analyze that defensive field. Analyzing, boss. Energy distribution. Pattern is... 3 more cruisers emerged from the planet's surface traffic, rising like predators. Dozens more TIE fighters screamed into formation, their solar panel wings catching the light. And in the distance, something massive broke through the cloud layer. A star destroyer, its dagger shape impossibly huge, bristling with weapons that could glass a continent. Bruce Banner's voice crackled across the comms, strained with effort. Guys, I really don't want to hulk out in upper orbit over an inhabited planet. Then don't, Steve ordered, shield already deflecting a barrage of laser fire. Avengers, evasive pattern Delta. We find cover, we regroup, and we figure out where the hell we are. Move. They scattered like a broken constellation, Earth's mightiest heroes diving toward the endless cityscape of Coruscant, pursued by an empire that had spent 2 decades crushing all resistance. Far below, in the depths of the Imperial palace, Emperor Palpatine paused mid-sentence, his yellow eyes narrowed, ancient and terrible, as he sensed a disturbance in the Force unlike anything he'd felt in decades. Not Jedi, not Sith, something else entirely. Something that didn't belong. His lips curled into a predatory smile. Continue, he told Grand Moff Tarkin. But dispatch Vader to investigate the anomalies. I want them alive. The game had changed. The Emperor simply didn't know the rules yet. But he would. If you want to see more crossover battles and unexpected universe collisions, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and universe you'd want to see in the comments below. Let's explore the infinite together. The Avengers plunged into Coruscant's skyline like meteors, scattering across a kilometer of vertical cityscape. Tony's armor screamed through traffic lanes packed with speeders, civilian vehicles that swerved and honked in a cacophony of alien confusion. His HUD tracked 17 different pursuit vectors, TIE fighters weaving through the urban canyon with practiced precision. Friday, I need building schematics, safe zones, anything. Sir, I'm interfacing with local data networks, but the architecture is completely foreign. Encryption protocols are... Wait, I'm in. Boss, this city has 40,000 levels. We're currently at level 5,127. The entire planet is urbanized. The entire planet? Tony's mind raced with the implications. How many people? Estimating 1 trillion permanent residents, possibly more. A turbo-laser bolt vaporized a landing platform 30 meters to his left, sending debris and screaming civilians tumbling into the abyss. Tony's chest tightened. Collateral damage. These people, whoever they were caught in a crossfire they didn't understand. All teams, minimize civilian exposure. Get below the traffic lanes. Steve and Natasha had already disappeared into the superstructure, the spy's grappling line carrying them through a shattered window into what looked like a massive shopping complex. Aliens of dozens of species, Twi'leks, Rhodians, humans that looked almost but not quite right, fled in panic as the two Avengers sprinted through. "This isn't Earth," Natasha said, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Steve, look at them. Different species, integrated society. We're not just off-world. We're somewhere completely different." Steve's shield deflected a stray blaster bolt that punched through the wall behind them, the red energy beam leaving a smoking crater. "I see it. Same priority applies. Protect civilians, find defensible ground." His tactical mind was already mapping exits, choke points, cover positions. "We need information before we can act." 3 stormtroopers crashed through a doorway ahead, their white armor gleaming under artificial lights, weapons raised. "Halt! In the name of the Emperor!" Steve's shield took the first volley of blaster fire, the crimson bolts ricocheting harmlessly off vibranium. He was moving before they could adjust, shield work honed by 100 battles, sending 2 troopers sprawling. Natasha flowed past him like water, a nerve strike dropping the third before he could cry out. She knelt, examining the fallen trooper's armor. Plastic composite, some kind of blast-resistant polymer. Military but mass-produced. Look at the symbol. Her fingers traced the Imperial cog on the trooper's shoulder. "This is a uniform, an army." "A big one," Steve agreed grimly, pulling data chips from the trooper's belt. "Tony, you getting this?" "Yeah. Friday's pulling everything she can from local networks." "Cap, we've got a problem. This isn't just a city. This is a capital. The Galactic Empire. They control thousands of star systems. This is a spacefaring civilization on a scale we can't even..." Thor's voice cut through, exultant and battle-mad. "Brothers, sisters, these metal warriors fall easily." Lightning crashed in the background, followed by the distinctive crunch of shattering metal. Though their ships are numerous. "Thor, pull back," Steve ordered. "We're not here to fight a war." "Then perhaps you should tell them that." Dr. Strange materialized on a platform 3 levels down, the mirror dimension flickering around him as he assessed their situation. His astral form had already scouted a dozen blocks in every direction. What he'd seen troubled him deeply. "Tony, Steve, this isn't a government. It's a totalitarian regime. I've seen executions in the streets, propaganda on every screen, military checkpoints every few blocks. Whatever we've stumbled into, we're on the wrong side of it." Wanda Maximoff descended beside him, red energy crackling around her fingers. Her eyes glowed scarlet as she read the surface thoughts of panicking civilians. They're terrified, not just of us, of their own government. They call them stormtroopers, Imperial forces. There's something called the Inquisitorius that hunts people with abilities. Her expression darkened. "Stephen, they're thinking about executions. Public displays of power. This empire rules through fear." "Like Hydra," Steve said quietly, and his jaw set. "Like the Red Skull's vision of the future." A massive explosion rocked the district. Clint's voice came through, breathless. "That wasn't me. Repeat, I did not blow up that munitions depot. That was me," Bruce said, and there was resignation in his tone. "Sorry, I tried to stay calm, but they dropped a building on me. The other guy didn't appreciate it." Through the smoke and debris 3 blocks away, the Hulk roared, a sound that shook windows and sent speeders spiraling out of control. He was magnificent and terrible. Green skin impervious to the turbo-laser fire that hammered into him from circling TIE fighters. Each impact just made him angrier. He leaped, a 100-meter vertical jump that brought him crashing down on a Gozanti cruiser. His fists punched through the hull like it was tinfoil. The cruiser, built to transport troops and withstand glancing fire, never stood a chance. It crumpled, systems exploding, and began a terminal descent toward the lower levels. The Hulk rode it down, roaring defiance at the sky. Vision phased through a wall, his yellow mind stone gleaming in his forehead. He moved with precision, analyzing everything. The technology here is advanced, but different. Energy weapons, faster than light travel, artificial gravity. But no arc reactors, no vibranium, no PIM particles. This is a parallel development. He tilted his head. I sense something else. An energy field that permeates everything. It's alive somehow. Conscious. The Force, Strange said immediately. I've felt it since we arrived. It's not magic as I know it, but something similar. A binding energy, cosmic in scope. Can you use it? No, and that's what worries me. My magic works. I can still draw from the dimensional planes I know, but this force, it's separate, inaccessible to me, which means whatever uses it. He trailed off, eyes distant. Whatever uses it has power I can't counter conventionally. Tony swooped down, landing on the platform in a crouch. His faceplate retracted, revealing a face tight with stress. Okay, here's what Friday's pulled together. We're in something called the Galactic Empire. Capital world, Coruscant. Population in the trillions across thousands of planets. They're ruled by an emperor named Palpatine, and they've got a military that makes S.H.I.E.L.D. look like mall security. We're talking millions of ships, billions of soldiers. Billions? Clint whistled low. Well, that's just fantastic. It gets better. 20 years ago, they had something called the Jedi Order, peacekeepers with mystical powers. The Empire wiped them out in a single night, killed thousands, maybe tens of thousands. Anyone with these powers is hunted by inquisitors, force-sensitive agents who serve the Empire. Wanda's expression went cold. They hunt people for having abilities. Yeah, and they're going to be really interested in us. Tony's eyes swept the team. We've got a guy with a magic rock in his head, a witch who can rewrite reality, a literal god, and a giant green rage monster. We're not exactly subtle. The sound of approaching engines grew louder. More TIE fighters, more cruisers. The Empire was marshaling its forces, responding to the threat with overwhelming military efficiency. Steve's voice cut through the tension, calm and absolute. We regroup, find somewhere defensible. We need time to figure out where we are, what we're dealing with, and how to get home. But first, he looked at each of them, in turn. We don't know these people, but we know tyranny when we see it. We avoid civilian casualties. We don't start a war, but we don't bow to fascists either. Clear? Crystal, Tony said. As Asgardian mead, Thor rumbled, Stormbreaker humming with barely restrained power. A new sound cut through the air, a rhythmic, mechanical breathing. The Avengers turned as one. A figure descended from a TIE advanced fighter that had appeared silently above them. Black armor, flowing cape, a helmet that reflected no light. Darth Vader landed on the platform with a weight that seemed to bend reality itself. His presence was suffocating, a darkness that pressed against their minds. Doctor Strange's hands blazed with golden light. That's the Force, concentrated, weaponized. Vader's helmet tilted, regarding them with the dispassion of a predator studying prey. When he spoke, his voice was deep, mechanical, and utterly without mercy. Surrender, or be destroyed. There is no third option. No. Tony's faceplate snapped shut. You know, I'm really getting tired of people telling us what to do. Agreed, Steve said, shield rising. The Dark Lord of the Sith ignited his lightsaber. The crimson blade cast blood-red shadows across the platform, and Earth's mightiest heroes realized they were about to face something none of them had ever encountered. The lightsaber's hum was like nothing in the Avengers' arsenal, a sound that seemed to vibrate through the Force itself. a weapon that cut through matter and energy with equal ease. Vader stood motionless, the crimson blade held in a guard position that spoke of absolute mastery. Around them, stormtroopers rappelled from hovering gunships, establishing a perimeter. 30, 50, 100 white-armored soldiers with blasters trained on the Avengers. "Last warning," Vader intoned. "You will be taken into Imperial custody, alive, if possible." Tony's HUD was screaming warnings. The energy blade registered as superheated plasma contained in a magnetic field, but the readings were unlike anything in his database. Temperature, 20,000 degrees Celsius. Cutting power, theoretically infinite against conventional materials. "Cap, that thing will cut through almost anything." "Almost," Steve repeated, stepping forward with his shield raised. "But not vibranium." Vader's breathing apparatus cycled once, twice. Then he moved. The Dark Lord was fast, impossibly fast for a man in full armor. His blade came down in a strike that would have bisected Steve from shoulder to hip. But the super soldier was already pivoting, shield angling to catch the blow. The lightsaber met vibranium with a shower of sparks and a sound like reality screaming. The blade didn't cut through, it slid off, redirected by the unique properties of Wakanda's miracle metal. Vader's surprise registered in his momentary pause. In that fraction of a second, Natasha was moving, her widow's bite crackling with electricity as she struck at his exposed joints. The electrical discharge would have dropped any normal opponent. Vader didn't even flinch. His free hand swept up, and Natasha flew backward as if struck by an invisible battering ram, her body slamming into a Durasteel support column 20 meters away. Nat. Clint's arrow was already in flight, an explosive tipped shaft that should have struck Vader's chest. It froze midair, suspended by an invisible force. Vader's hand clenched, and the arrow crumpled like paper, falling harmlessly to the ground. "Telekinesis," Strange said, his own hands weaving defensive wards. "He's manipulating the fundamental forces of reality without incantations or dimensional energy. This force, it's formidable." Thor stepped forward, lightning crackling along Stormbreaker's blade. "I have faced gods and monsters across the 9 realms. Let us see how you fare against the might of Asgard." He hurled a lightning bolt that would have leveled a city block. Vader raised his left hand. The lightning hit an invisible barrier, diffusing around the Dark Lord in crackling tendrils that scorched the platform but left him untouched. The effort cost him. His breathing hitched, slightly labored, but he stood firm. "Impressive," Vader acknowledged, "but insufficient." His hand thrust forward, and Steve felt an invisible grip close around his throat. The super soldier's enhanced physiology fought against it, but he was lifted off the ground, boots kicking uselessly. The forced choke was Vader's signature execution method, and he'd killed hundreds with it. Tony's repulsor screamed, twin beams of concentrated energy striking Vader's center mass. The impact staggered the Sith Lord, broke his concentration. Steve dropped, gasping, shield clattering beside him. "Okay, that got his attention," Tony said, already dodging as Vader's lightsaber carved through the air where he'd been. "Friday analysis. The energy manipulation is beyond my ability to quantify, boss. It doesn't follow standard physics. However, kinetic impacts appear effective. Recommend sustained bombardment." "Works for me." Tony's armor reconfigured, micro-missiles deploying from shoulder mounts. "Eat this." The barrage would have destroyed a tank. Vader's lightsaber became a crimson blur, deflecting missiles with precision that defied human reaction times. 3 made it through, exploding against his armor. He staggered but didn't fall, his dark presence in the Force only intensifying. Then Wanda entered the fight, Her hex bolt struck like red lightning, reality-warping energy that made Vader's Force sense scream warnings. He raised a force barrier, but Scarlet Witch's chaos magic was something this galaxy had never encountered. The barrier buckled, cracked. Vader was forced backward, his boots scraping across durasteel. What manner of power? For the first time, genuine surprise colored Vader's mechanical voice. "The kind you've never seen," Wanda said, eyes blazing scarlet. Her fingers twisted, and the platform beneath Vader began to warp, metal flowing like water. He leaped, using the Force to propel himself clear. But Wanda was relentless. Debris lifted from the battlefield, chunks of destroyed speeders, broken durasteel beams, shattered transparasteel, and hurled themselves at the Sith Lord in a telekinetic storm. Vader's lightsaber carved through the barrage while his own force powers deflected what his blade couldn't reach. It was a stalemate between two reality benders, and the platform was disintegrating under the strain. Vision phased through the chaos, his density shifting to intangible as he moved behind Vader. "Your abilities are remarkable, but they require concentration." The Mind Stone flared, and a beam of pure energy lanced toward Vader's exposed back. The Dark Lord spun impossibly fast, lightsaber intercepting the beam. For 3 seconds, they stood locked, the Infinity Stone's power against a Sith's mastery of the Force. Then Vader's blade angled, redirecting the beam into a nearby support structure. The column exploded, and the entire platform began to collapse. "Avengers, disengage!" Steve's voice cut through the chaos. "We're not winning this here." The Hulk chose that moment to arrive, leaping from a lower level with a roar that shook the air. His massive green fist came down like a meteor, aimed at Vader's head. The Sith Lord raised both hands, catching the blow with pure force power. The platform buckled beneath them, durasteel screaming as two titans of power strained against each other. For a moment, just a moment, Vader held. His mastery of the dark side was absolute, his will unbreakable. But the Hulk's strength wasn't just physical. It was the manifestation of infinite rage, limitless gamma radiation, a force of nature that had held up a mountain and fought a god to a standstill. The invisible barrier cracked. Vader's boots sank into the platform. His breathing became labored. Hulk smash! The green giant's second punch broke through. It caught Vader's shoulder, spinning the Sith Lord like a rag doll. His lightsaber flew from his grip, deactivating as it clattered across the platform. Vader crashed into a wall hard enough to crack the durasteel, his breathing ragged and pained. But he wasn't done. Vader's hand thrust out, and a nearby TIE fighter, all 7 meters and several tons of it, tore free from its mooring and hurtled toward the Hulk. The green giant roared, catching it, but the impact drove him backward. Vader was already moving, using the Force to pull his lightsaber back to his hand. The crimson blade reignited. "We're leaving," Tony shouted, his armor's scanners picking up massive energy signatures. "Now, that Star Destroyer is charging weapons." High above, the Imperial-class Star Destroyer's turbolaser batteries swiveled, targeting solutions locked. A single volley from that warship could vaporize everything within a square kilometer. Strange's hands carved intricate patterns in the air. "Everyone, on me, now!" A portal of golden sparks erupted behind them. Not to the mirror dimension, but to a location Strange's astral form had scouted moments before. An abandoned industrial sector 60 levels down, a maze of forgotten warehouses and maintenance tunnels. "Go!" Steve grabbed Natasha, who was still recovering from Vader's force. "Push." Clint was already moving, firing a grappling arrow through the portal. Thor scooped up Wanda, who was breathing hard from the exertion of matching a Sith Lord's power. Tony grabbed Bruce. The Hulk had reverted mid-battle, exhausted and naked, and rocketed through the portal. Vision phased through last, his form solidifying on the other side. Vader stood alone on the crumbling platform, his breathing harsh and mechanical. Around him, 50 stormtroopers maintained their perimeter, but not one had dared to fire during the battle. They'd witnessed something that would fuel reports and rumors for months. The Dark Lord of the Sith, Emperor Palpatine's enforcer, the man who had killed Jedi Masters and crushed rebellions, had been fought to a standstill by beings who used no force, no lightsabers, only raw power of types he'd never encountered. Strange's portal snapped shut, cutting off Vader's view. The Sorcerer Supreme sagged, catching himself against a wall, creating portals between locations he'd barely scouted in a galaxy whose dimensional structure was alien to him, had pushed him to his limits. That, Tony gasped, was the second worst introduction I've ever had. And I once met Thor by getting punched through a forest. He was holding back, Natasha said quietly, checking her ribs for fractures. That forced choke, he could have killed Steve instantly. He wanted us alive. Steve nodded grimly, retrieving his shield. Which means whoever's in charge wants to study us, or use us. The Emperor, Vision said. Imperial records mention him frequently. Palpatine. He orchestrated the fall of the Jedi Order, consolidated power, transformed a republic into a dictatorship. He is, by all accounts, the most dangerous individual in this galaxy. Great, Clint muttered, checking his remaining arrows. So we fought the apprentice. The actual boss is still out there. Thor's eyes crackled with lightning, his face grim. That warrior, Vader, possessed power beyond most mortals I've encountered. Yet you say he serves another? This Emperor must be formidable indeed. Wanda sat heavily, her hands still trembling. I felt something when I touched his mind with my magic. Pain. So much pain. And rage. That man, if he even still is a man, is more machine than flesh. He's trapped in that armor, sustained by the same power that makes him strong. A living weapon, Bruce said softly, wrapping himself in a salvaged tarp. Created by this empire to enforce its will. Strange's expression was troubled. We've announced ourselves to this galaxy in the worst possible way. We've engaged their military, fought one of their champions to a standstill, and proven we possess power they can't immediately explain or counter. They won't stop hunting us. Good, Steve said, and there was steel in his voice. Because we're not running. We need information, allies, and a way home. And if this empire is anything like Hydra, there are people fighting against it, people who might help us. Tony's HUD flickered as Friday processed intercepted Imperial communications. Cap's right. I'm picking up chatter about rebel cells, insurgents, traitors to the Empire. There's resistance. The question is whether they'll trust us, or whether we can trust them, Natasha added. We don't know the politics here, the factions, the history. For all we know, both sides are monsters. A distant explosion echoed through the industrial sector. Sirens wailed in the distance. The Empire was mobilizing, searching every level, every district. Earth's mightiest heroes had just declared war on a galactic superpower, and neither side fully understood what they were facing. But in the depths of the Imperial Palace, Emperor Palpatine watched holographic footage of the battle with eyes that gleamed with dark hunger. Fascinating, he whispered, his ancient voice thick with malice. Such power, such potential. Yes, I will have them. All of them. The abandoned industrial sector stank of rust, ozone, and something organic that had been decaying for years. 60 levels below Coruscant's gleaming surface, the city showed its true face. a labyrinth of forgotten infrastructure where the Empire's pristine order gave way to shadows and decay. Water dripped from corroded pipes, and the only light came from failing glow panels that flickered like dying stars. Tony's armor cast harsh blue light across the warehouse as he completed a perimeter sweep. We're clear for now. Friday's set up electromagnetic scramblers using salvaged tech. Should buy us a few hours before their sensors pierce through. But we need a plan. Steve stood at a shattered window, watching TIE fighters scream past overhead, their searchlights cutting through the smog. First priority, intelligence. We need to understand this galaxy's power structure, find out if there's organized resistance, and locate any technology that might help us get home. Second priority, Bruce added, pulling on makeshift clothing they'd scavenged, a worker's jumpsuit that barely fit his frame. Is staying off the Empire's radar long enough to accomplish priority 1? After that display, they're going to be looking for us everywhere. Natasha was already at work, her fingers flying across a salvaged datapad she'd lifted from an unconscious stormtrooper. Their security protocols are sophisticated, but not unbreakable. I'm accessing civilian networks, news feeds, social media equivalents, public records. Give me 20 minutes. Vision phased through the wall, materializing beside them. I've scouted a 3-kilometer radius. This sector is sparsely populated, mainly non-humans engaged in what appears to be gray market trading. The Empire maintains minimal presence here, likely by design. The lower levels serve as a pressure valve for discontent. Smart, Steve admitted grudgingly. Let the criminals and poor stay out of sight. Focus enforcement on the upper levels, where the wealthy and powerful live. Keeps order where it matters to them. It's disgusting, Wanda said, her accent thickening with anger. I've seen this before, Sokovia, before it fell. The powerful ignore the suffering beneath them until it explodes. Thor paced like a caged lion, Stormbreaker humming with restless energy. I like not this skulking in shadows. The Avengers have faced armies openly, fought with honor. This warrior, Vader, showed us respect in battle. Should we not do the same? Vader tried to choke me to death, Steve pointed out dryly. And he's following orders from an emperor who genocided an entire order of peacekeepers. This isn't about honor, Thor. It's about survival. Indeed, Strange interjected, floating cross-legged in meditation, his astral form occasionally flickering in and out of phase. I've been probing the dimensional fabric of this reality. We're not just in another galaxy, we're in another universe entirely. The fundamental constants are similar but distinct. The quantum tunnel didn't just transport us through space. It tore through the barrier between realities. Can you reverse it? Tony asked immediately. Get us home? Strange's expression was grim, not without understanding what caused the breach. The quantum realm technology you were using, the hyperspace anomaly we intersected, both would need to be replicated precisely. And I sensed something else. His eyes opened, glowing with golden light. This force that permeates everything here, it's aware, not conscious in the way we understand, but responsive. It noticed when Wanda and I used our powers. It's curious about us. Curious how? Clint asked, testing his bowstring. Curious like a scientist or curious like a predator? Yes, Strange said flatly. A sound echoed through the warehouse, the distinctive click of a blaster being primed. The Avengers spun as one, weapons and powers activating in a heartbeat. Tony's repulsors charged, Steve's shield came. Up. Thor's eyes blazed with lightning. A woman stepped from the shadows, and she was decidedly not Imperial. Her clothes were worn but practical, her face hidden behind a breath mask common to Coruscant's lower levels. She held a modified DL-44 blaster pistol with the casual competence of someone who'd used it many times. Behind her, 5 more figures emerged. Humans and aliens, all armed, all watching the Avengers with a mixture of fear and desperate hope. "Lower your weapons," the woman said, her voice muffled by the mask. "We're not with the Empire." That's what someone with the Empire would say, Natasha countered, her widow's bites crackling. The woman pulled down her mask, revealing a face scarred by hard years and harder choices. "I'm Lyra Vex, freelance operator, former Imperial intelligence, until I discovered what they do to people like me." Her eyes flicked to Wanda, then Strange. "People with gifts. People who can touch the Force." The warehouse went very still. "You're Force sensitive," Vision observed. "Yet you survived the Jedi Purge." "I was nobody, a low-level analyst who could predict outcomes a little too well, sense danger before it happened. They called it intuition. I knew better than to advertise it." Her expression hardened. "But I've seen what they do to anyone who shows real power. The Inquisitors hunt them. The Emperor collects them. Most don't survive the process." "Why reveal yourself to us?" Steve asked, shield still raised, but his tone measured. Lyra's laugh was bitter. "Because you just fought Darth Vader to a standstill on the upper levels of Coruscant, caused millions of credits in property damage, and walked away. The entire planet is talking about it. Holonets exploded with footage, suppressed by Imperial censors, but it's spreading anyway. You're either the stupidest beings in the galaxy or the most powerful." "Little of column A, little of column B," Tony muttered. "We need allies," Lyra continued, holstering her blaster, slowly. "The rebellion, the real rebellion, not the scattered cells, is organizing. We've been watching the Empire consolidate power for 2 decades, waiting for the right moment. You just handed us the greatest propaganda victory since the Clone Wars ended." "Propaganda?" Steve's voice went cold. "We're not interested in being anyone's symbols." "Too late, you already are." Lyra pulled out a holoprojector, activating it. The image that flickered to life showed the battle from a dozen angles. Civilian recordings from speeders, security cameras, even military footage that had been leaked. Thor's lightning striking Vader. Steve's shield deflecting a lightsaber. The Hulk's raw power forcing the Empire's enforcer backward. Wanda's reality warping magic. This is spreading through the underworld networks faster than the Empire can suppress it. For the first time in 20 years, people are seeing the Empire's champions bleed. "We didn't come here to start a revolution," Bruce said, quietly. "We're trying to get home. And you think the Empire will just let you leave? They'll study you, dissect you, learn how your powers work. Then they'll either turn you into weapons or eliminate you as threats." Lyra's eyes swept across each of them. "You don't have the luxury of neutrality, not anymore." A rumble shook the warehouse. Dust filtered down from the ceiling. Tony's sensors lit up. "We've got company. Imperial walkers, AT-ST class, 6 of them converging on this sector." "They found us faster than expected," Natasha said, checking her weapons. "No," Vision said, his voice troubled. "They found this location. They were tracking us, yes. But also," he looked at Lyra, "they're looking for rebels. We've led them directly to resistance operatives." Lyra's face went pale. "There are 36 families in the adjacent sectors. Non-combatants. If the Empire thinks there's rebel activity here, they'll kill everyone." Steve finished, his jaw tight. "Collective punishment. Hydra's playbook." "We can't let that happen," Wanda said immediately. Tony's HUD showed the tactical situation. 6 AT-STs, bipedal assault walkers, each armed with chin-mounted blaster cannons and side-mounted grenade launchers. Surrounding them, 2 companies of stormtroopers. And in the sky, a troop transport disgorging more soldiers. Cap, if we engage, we're making a choice. We're picking a side. Steve looked at each of his teammates, reading their faces. Thor's barely restrained eagerness for battle. Natasha's cool assessment. Bruce's resigned acceptance. Wanda's moral certainty. Clint's grim readiness. Strange's calculating consideration. Vision's analytical evaluation. "We've already picked a side," Steve said quietly. "The same side we've always been on. The side of people who can't protect themselves from tyranny. The Empire will hunt us across the galaxy?" Vision pointed out. "Let them." Steve's shield caught the failing light. "We're the Avengers. We don't bow to fascists, no matter what galaxy we're in. If we're stuck here, we do what we always do. We fight for those who can't fight for themselves." Tony's faceplate snapped shut. "Well, when you put it like that. Friday, tactical analysis. How do we take down 6 walking tanks without leveling the neighborhood?" "Recommend precision strikes, boss. Target the leg joints, weaker armor, critical mobility points. I'll mark targeting solutions." Thor's grin was fierce. "Finally, a battle worthy of song. Let these Empire dogs learn what it means to face Asgard's might." Lyra stared at them, something like hope kindling in her eyes. "You're really going to fight them? 6 walkers and 200 stormtroopers?" "Lady," Clint said, knocking an arrow. "We fought an alien army in New York. We fought a robot with a god complex in Sokovia. We fought a purple titan who wanted to kill half the universe." He grinned. 6 walkers? That's just a warm-up. Natasha checked her gauntlets. "Get your people to safety. We'll buy you time." "And after?" Lyra asked. "After you win. If you win, what then?" Steve's expression was carved from granite, the same look he'd worn storming Hydra bases, fighting for freedom in a world gone mad with fascism. "Then you introduce us to this rebellion of yours. Because if we're going to be stuck in this galaxy, we're going to make sure tyranny doesn't get to rule unopposed." The walkers were closing in, their heavy footfalls shaking the ground. Searchlights cut through the smog, hunting for targets. The Empire had brought overwhelming force, confident in their military supremacy. They had no idea what was waiting for them. "Avengers," Steve said, his voice carrying the weight of command that had led heroes through impossible battles. "Assemble." In the Imperial Palace, Emperor Palpatine felt a disturbance in the Force. Not danger, but opportunity. The anomalies weren't fleeing, they were fighting back, and every engagement would teach him more about their capabilities, their limitations, their weaknesses. He smiled, ancient and terrible. "Let them fight," he whispered. "Let them show me everything they can do. And then I will make them mine." The AT-STs emerged from the smog like mechanical predators, their chicken walker legs eating up ground with surprising speed for machines their size. Each walker stood nearly 9 meters tall, cockpit mounted between shoulder-mounted weapon pods, pilots encased in durasteel armor. Their chin-mounted blaster cannons swept the sector, painting target locks on heat signatures, power sources, anything that moved. "All units, sweep pattern OREC," the lead walker's commander ordered over Imperial channels. "Rebels reported in this sector. Lethal force authorized." Tony intercepted the transmission, his jaw tightening. "They're not here to arrest anyone. This is a kill order." "Then we stop them before they reach the civilian sectors," Steve said. "Clint, Thor, high ground. Vision, Wanda, crowd control on the troopers. Nat, Strange, Bruce, with me. Tony, those walkers are yours. Music to my ears. Tony's armor blazed to full power, repulsors screaming as he rocketed toward the nearest, AT-ST. His HUD marked the weak points Friday had identified. Knee joints, neck actuators, the viewport where the pilot sat exposed behind transparent steel. The walker's sensors locked onto him, blaster cannons tracking. Twin emerald bolts lanced out, each capable of punching through building foundations. Tony barrel rolled, the shots missing by centimeters, and came up underneath the walker's legs. His repulsors fired point blank into the right knee joint. The actuator exploded in a shower of sparks and hydraulic fluid. The walker stumbled, pilot struggling to compensate, and Tony was already targeting the other leg. 2 more repulsor blasts, surgical precision, and the walker collapsed forward like a felled tree. The pilots ejected milliseconds before impact, their seats rocketing clear as the machine crashed in a screech of tortured metal. 1 down, Tony called. 5 to go? And for the record, these things are way easier to kill than Chitauri Leviathans. Thor landed on the shoulder of the second walker, Stormbreaker blazing with lightning. I shall test that claim. He drove the axe down through the cockpit hatch, the Uru metal punching through durasteel like parchment. Lightning surged through the walker's systems, frying circuits and overloading power cells. The machine seized, locked up, and toppled sideways into an abandoned warehouse. 2 down. Thor's laugh was pure battle joy. Come, metal beasts, face the son of Odin. The remaining 4 walkers adjusted tactics immediately. Their pilots, military professionals who'd fought in a dozen campaigns. They spread out, creating overlapping fields of fire, supporting each other with practiced coordination. Concussion grenades launched from side pods, airburst explosions designed to suppress infantry and flush out cover. Clint fired from a rusted catwalk, his explosive arrows striking true. One walker's viewport shattered, the pilot inside slumped over controls, and the machine went into an automated shutdown. 3, Clint counted, already knocking another arrow. But the stormtroopers were advancing in disciplined formation, 2 full companies spreading through the sector with military precision. Their white armor gleamed, even in the smog-choked air, E-11 blaster rifles spitting red bolts that punched fist-sized holes in durasteel. They'd learned from the earlier engagement. No single-file advances, proper cover discipline, overlapping fire lanes. Contact front, a stormtrooper sergeant called. Unknown hostiles, same signatures as upper-level engagement. Squad 4, suppressing fire. Squad 7, flank left. Vision phased through a wall directly into their formation, his density shifting to maximum. He was harder than diamond, denser than lead, and moving with purpose. His fist caught a stormtrooper center mass, sending the soldier flying backward into 3 of his squad mates. The Mind Stone pulsed, and a beam of concentrated energy swept across the formation, not to kill, but to destroy weapons. Blaster rifles exploded in troopers' hands, ammunition cooked off, forcing soldiers to retreat. Non-lethal when possible, Vision reminded the others over comms. These soldiers may be conscripts. Tell that to them, Natasha grunted, her widow's bite stunning 2 troopers who tried to flank her. She moved like water through their formation, nerve strikes and joint locks dropping soldiers without killing them. But for every one she downed, 2 more advanced. The Empire had numbers. Overwhelming, crushing numbers. Wanda floated above the battlefield, her eyes blazing scarlet, chaos magic swirling around her in visible waves. She gestured, and entire squads found themselves lifted off the ground, weapons flying from their hands, armor pieces unbuckling themselves. She deposited them, gently but firmly, in a sealed warehouse, locking the doors with twisted metal. 30 neutralized, she reported. But more are coming. I can feel them, hundreds of them, converging from all directions. Strange stood at the center of a mandala of golden light. his hands weaving patterns that bent space itself. Blaster bolts entered his protective sphere and simply stopped, frozen in midair like insects in amber. When he'd collected a dozen, he reversed the spell, sending them back at their sources. Stormtroopers dove for cover as their own shots ricocheted through their formation. The Empire's response time is impressive. Strange noted clinically, they have staging areas throughout the city ready for rapid deployment. This isn't just a military, it's an occupation force. Steve's shield sang as it deflected a barrage of blaster fire, the vibranium absorbing and dispersing energy that would have vaporized stone. He moved through the stormtrooper formation like a surgical strike, the shield striking helmets and joints, dropping soldiers without lethal force. His tactical mind was already 3 moves ahead, reading the battlefield like a language. "They're corralling us," he called. "Pushing us toward the center. It's a kill box." "I see it," Tony confirmed, his sensors tracking Imperial movements. "They're setting up E-Web heavy repeaters on the perimeter. Once those are online, they'll have us in a crossfire we can't." The ground shook, not from Walker footfalls, but something larger, something that made the AT-STs look like toys. An AT-AT emerged from the smog. The all-terrain armored transport was a monster of military engineering, 22 meters tall, armored to withstand orbital bombardment, bristling with heavy laser cannons. Its 4 legs moved with inexorable purpose, each footfall crushing speeders and infrastructure beneath tons of durasteel. The head swiveled, targeting sensors painting every Avenger with lock after lock. "Okay," Tony said, his voice tight. "That's new." "What is that thing?" Bruce asked, still in human form but feeling the Hulk stirring beneath his skin, sensing danger. At. Walker? Friday supplied. Crew of 5, capacity for 40 troops. Armament includes twin heavy laser cannons and 2 medium repeating blasters. Armor thickness ranges from short version, can we hurt it? Unknown. Vibranium and Uru metal should penetrate. Your repulsors and Thor's lightning will be minimally effective against that much armor plating. The AT-AT's main cannons swiveled, locking onto Thor. The God of Thunder raised Stormbreaker defiantly, but Steve was already moving. "Thor, evade!" The heavy laser cannons fired, emerald bolts the size of cars erupting from the walker's head. Thor dove aside, the shots missing by meters and vaporizing the warehouse behind him. The building collapsed, support structure atomized, sending thousands of tons of debris cascading into the lower levels. "There are people down there," Wanda screamed, already moving, her powers reaching out to catch falling rubble, slow its descent, give civilians time to flee. "That's the point," Natasha said grimly. "They're trying to force us to choose, fight them or save civilians." "We do both," Steve said. "Vision, Wanda. Evacuate the sector. Everyone else, bring that thing down. Thor, can you hit the legs?" "With pleasure." Thor channeled lightning through Stormbreaker, the axe blazing like a captive star. He hurled it, the weapon spinning through the air with impossible force, aimed at the AT-AT's front left leg joint. The axe struck true, burying itself in the ankle actuator. Lightning surged through the joint, and for a moment, it looked like the massive walker would topple. But Imperial engineers had designed for force lightning. Religious zealots with Jedi-killing weapons had been a threat during the Clone Wars. The walker's systems were hardened, insulated, designed to shrug off electrical attacks. The leg locked, seized, but held. "Redundant systems," Tony cursed. "It's not going down easy. Bruce, I think we need..." "I know." Bruce's eyes were already tinged with green. "I really hope to avoid this." "Dr. Banner," Vision's calm voice cut through the chaos. "If you transform, that walker's crew will fire everything they have at you. The collateral damage to the civilian sectors will be catastrophic. Bruce's fists clenched, muscles bulging, skin beginning to green. Then what do you suggest? Precision, Steve said, his tactical mind already formulating a plan. Tony, Thor, Strange, keep it distracted. Nat, Clint, me, we take it from the inside. Inside? Clint's eyebrows rose. Cap, that thing's sealed tighter than... An explosion rocked the AT-STs' rear hatch. Lyra Vex stood 50 meters away, a smoking rocket launcher on her shoulder, grinning fiercely. Behind her, a dozen resistance fighters wielded thermal detonators and ion grenades, weapons designed for precisely this kind of assault. You wanted to meet the rebellion? She shouted. Well, here we are. That hatch won't stay open long. If you're going in, go now. Steve didn't hesitate. Avengers, breach and clear, move. He sprinted toward the walker, shield raised, as blaster fire from the surrounding stormtroopers converged on his position. Natasha flanked him, her movements liquid grace, widow's bites taking down soldiers who tried to intercept. Clint's arrows flew overhead, each shot disabling a trooper, creating a corridor through the chaos. The AT-STs' rear hatch was built to resist lightsaber strikes and thermal detonators, but only for a few seconds. That was all the time they had. Steve hurled his shield. It ricocheted off the damaged hatch, struck a stormtrooper, bounced off a durasteel beam, and returned to his hand. The hatch buckled, twisted, and tore free. An opening. Inside, now! They dove through as the hatch exploded fully, tumbling into the walker's troop compartment. 40 stormtroopers spun toward them, weapons raised, and the interior of the AT-ST became a close-quarters hell. But this, tight spaces, outnumbered, backs against the wall, this was where the Avengers had cut their teeth in 100 battles. Natasha's gauntlets crackled, stunning 2 troopers before they could fire. Steve's shield became a blur, deflecting point-blank shots, while his fists and feet dropped soldiers with brutal efficiency. Clint drew his combat knife, no room for arrows, and became a whirlwind of close-quarters violence. Breach in the troop bay. A pilot's panicked voice crackled over internal comms. Hostiles inside the walker. Repeat, hostiles inside... Steve was already climbing the internal ladder toward the command deck. Nat, secure the bay. Clint, watch our backs. The command deck was cramped, 5 crew members operating the massive war machine. They drew sidearms as Steve burst through, but he was already moving. The shield struck the weapon commander's blaster from his hand. A leg sweep dropped the driver. The commander himself, an officer with command experience, tried to trigger the self-destruct. Steve's hand caught his wrist. Don't. You can't win, the commander spat. The Empire is eternal. Lord Vader will hunt you to the edges of the galaxy. Maybe, Steve said, twisting the man's arm behind his back and securing him with magnetic restraints from his own belt. But not today. He looked at the walker's controls, utterly alien interface, symbols he couldn't read, systems he didn't understand. But he didn't need to understand them. He just needed to turn them off. Tony, I need you up here. We've captured the walker, but I can't operate it. On my way, Cap. Tony blasted through the viewport, shattering the reinforced transparent steel like it was sugar glass, and landed in the command deck. Friday, interface with their systems. Already connected, boss. Imperial military encryption is surprisingly straightforward. I have full control. Shut it down, carefully. Don't let it fall on anything inhabited. The AT-ST's legs locked, hydraulics hissing as the massive machine began a controlled descent. It settled onto its belly like a mechanical beast lying down, weapons powering offline, systems entering standby mode. Outside, the remaining stormtroopers saw their invincible assault walker neutralized, saw beings they couldn't identify tearing through Imperial military hardware like it was paper. Saw their comrades defeated, their vehicles destroyed, their overwhelming force advantage rendered meaningless. The sergeant commanding ground forces made a tactical decision. All units withdraw. Repeat, all units withdraw. We need reinforcements. The white-armored soldiers retreated with practiced discipline, covering each other, dragging wounded comrades, leaving their pride but preserving their lives. Within minutes, the sector was clear except for smoking wreckage and the stunned silence of victory. Lyra Vex approached the downed AT-AT, looking at it with something like religious awe. You just captured an Imperial walker. Do you have any idea what the rebellion could do with this kind of hardware? Keep it, Tony said, emerging from the walker's hatch. Consider it a down payment on that intelligence you promised us. Steve climbed down, helping Natasha and Clint out. How many casualties, civilian and military? Minimal, Vision reported, descending with Wanda. We managed to evacuate the primary blast zones, approximately 30 stormtroopers with various injuries, none fatal. No civilian deaths that I could detect. We fought an Imperial assault force and nobody died, Bruce said, and there was genuine surprise in his voice. That's actually impressive. It won't last, Strange warned, his expression grim. This was a probe, a test of our capabilities. The Empire now knows we can be hurt, that we bleed, that we can be overwhelmed with sufficient force. Next time, they'll bring more, much more. Thor surveyed the battlefield, Stormbreaker still humming with residual energy. Let them come. We have faced worse odds and prevailed. In our universe, Strange countered, where we understood the rules, the powers, the players. Here, we're blind. That force, Vader's abilities, we barely survived that encounter. And there are others like him. The Emperor, the Inquisitors, Force users we haven't even encountered yet. Then we learn, Steve said firmly. Fast, starting now. He turned to Lyra. You said you'd introduce us to the rebellion. We're ready. Take us to your leaders. Lyra hesitated, then nodded slowly. It's a risk, for you and for us. If the Empire tracks you to rebel leadership, they're already hunting us, Natasha pointed out. Might as well make it count. Then follow me. But first, Lyra pulled out a portable holotransmitter. I need to send a message. Tell them what's coming. Because after today, after you just humiliated the Imperial military on the capital world itself, everything changes. She was right. Across Coruscant, in 1,000 underground networks, in cantinas and workshops and hidden meeting rooms, people watched bootleg footage of Earth's mightiest heroes fighting the Empire to a standstill. For 2 decades, the Empire had been invincible, unstoppable, eternal. Today, they'd looked mortal. And in the deepest shadows of the Imperial Palace, Emperor Palpatine watched the same footage with eyes that glowed with dark hunger. He'd seen enough. He understood what they were, what they could do, what they represented. Threats, tools, opportunities. Dispatch the Third Fleet, he commanded Grand Moff Tarkin. Seal the planet. Nothing leaves Coruscant without my permission. They are somewhere in the lower levels, and they will need allies, supplies, information. Monitor all rebel sympathizers. Watch every contact, every transmission. And when we find them, my lord, Palpatine's smile was death itself. Then I'll introduce them to the true power of the dark side. They think they've seen the Empire's strength? His laughter was dry, ancient, terrible. They've seen nothing, nothing at all. The safe house was buried 90 levels below the surface, in a sector so forgotten that even Imperial surveillance had deemed it beneath notice. The Avengers descended through maintenance shafts and abandoned transit tunnels, following Lyra and her resistance cell through a maze that would have been impossible to navigate without guidance. The air grew thicker, more oppressive with each level, until Tony's atmospheric sensors registered industrial pollutants at levels that would kill an unprotected human within hours. "Charming neighborhood," Clint muttered, his bow at the ready despite Lyra's assurances. "Really, homie. It keeps us alive," Lyra replied, leading them through a doorway concealed behind a malfunctioning power conduit. "The Empire controls the upper levels, the government districts, the wealthy sectors, anywhere that matters. Down here, we're rats in the walls, not worth the effort to exterminate unless we make ourselves a problem." "You just helped us capture an AT-ST," Natasha pointed out. "I'd say you're officially a problem." Lyra's smile was sharp. "Good." The safe house interior was larger than expected. A converted industrial facility, possibly a processing plant before Coruscant's endless urbanization had buried it alive. Holotables displayed star charts and Imperial patrol routes. Weapon racks held modified blasters and thermal detonators. And in the center, around a flickering holographic projector, stood 3 figures who radiated authority despite their mismatched clothing and worn equipment. The first was a woman in her 50s, her dark hair streaked with gray, her face bearing the kind of lines that came from carrying impossible burdens. She wore the remnants of what might have been senatorial robes, now adapted for practicality. Her eyes were sharp, calculating, and filled with a hope so carefully guarded it was almost invisible. The second was a Bothan, an alien species the Avengers had never encountered. Fur-mottled cream and brown, features somewhere between canine and humanoid. He wore tactical gear and carried himself with military precision, his violet eyes constantly scanning for threats. The third was human, younger than the others, perhaps 30, with the kind of quiet intensity that spoke of technical expertise pushed to its absolute limits. His hands were stained with machine oil and chemical burns. The woman stepped forward, studying each Avenger with an assessment that would have done Fury proud. "I am Senator Lisa Merlin, former senator, before the Empire dissolved what remained of the Senate's power. This is Colonel Drevin, formerly of the Republic Navy, and Cale Vance, our Chief Technical Officer." She paused, her expression carefully neutral. "Lyra tells me you fought Darth Vader and lived, that you neutralized an Imperial assault force with minimal casualties, that you possess abilities unlike anything we've encountered." "That about covers it," Tony said, his faceplate retracting. "Tony Stark, these are my associates, Captain Steve Rogers, Thor Odinson, Dr. Bruce Banner, Natasha Romanoff, Clint Barton, Wanda Maximoff, Dr. Stephen Strange, and Vision." Colonel Drevin's eyes widened slightly at Vision's appearance. The synthetic being's red skin and the Mind Stone glowing in his forehead were impossible to miss. "You're not human. Not entirely." "I am a synthezoid," Vision explained calmly. "An artificial being created through a fusion of organic tissue, vibranium, and the Mind Stone. An artifact of immense power from our universe." "Your universe?" Senator Merlin's carefully maintained composure cracked slightly. "Lyra mentioned you weren't from this galaxy, but another universe entirely?" Strange stepped forward, golden light dancing between his fingers. "We're from a different reality. Similar physical laws, but distinct dimensional coordinates. We arrived through an accident involving quantum technology and what your people call hyperspace. We're trying to find a way home. But in the meantime," Steve added, his voice carrying the weight of command, "we're not going to stand by while an authoritarian regime terrorizes innocent people. We've fought fascism before. We'll fight it again." Cale Vance spoke for the first time, his voice hoarse from years of breathing recycled air. You speak of fighting the Empire as though it's a simple matter of will. Do you understand what you're facing? They control 25,000 Star Destroyers, millions of TIE fighters, billions of stormtroopers. They've subjugated thousands of star systems, crushed countless rebellions, wiped out entire species that opposed them. We fought an army of alien invaders in New York, Clint said quietly. We fought a killer robot with an army of drones in Sokovia. We fought a Titan who'd conquered half the galaxy and wanted to kill half of all life in the universe. He met Kyle's eyes. We know about impossible odds. And did you win, Colonel? Draven asked, his tone not challenging but genuinely curious. We're still here, Natasha said. That's a kind of winning. Senator Morellin gestured to the holotable. Then perhaps you can help us understand something. Our intelligence indicates the Empire has gone to unprecedented alert levels. They've sealed Coruscant. No ship leaves the planet without direct clearance from the Emperor himself. They've activated Inquisitors from across the galaxy. Darth Vader has been given carte blanche to mobilize whatever resources he needs. She looked at each of them. This isn't standard Imperial overreaction. This is fear. What did you do to make them afraid? We didn't bow, Steve said simply. We didn't surrender when ordered. We fought back and proved we could hurt them. Tyrants don't fear armies. They fear the idea that they can be resisted at all. Poetic, Draven said dryly. But the reality is more complex. The Empire's strength isn't just military. It's psychological. For 20 years, they've been the unstoppable force, the inevitable future. Resistance has been scattered, disorganized, hopeless. Then you arrive, beings from another universe with powers that don't follow the rules of this galaxy, and you fight the Empire's champion to a standstill on live holofeed. He leaned forward. Do you understand what that means? Across 1,000 worlds, people are watching footage of your battle. The Empire is trying to suppress it, but it's spreading faster than they can contain. You've done in one day what we've been trying to do for 2 decades. You've made people believe resistance is possible. Thor's expression was troubled. We did not come to your galaxy seeking war. We are displaced, seeking only to return home. I believe you, Senator Morellin said. But intentions don't change consequences. You're here. You've engaged the Empire. They won't stop hunting you until you're captured, killed, or have fled to the farthest reaches of space. And if you run, if you hide, you'll prove to everyone watching that even beings as powerful as you can't stand against Imperial might. Her eyes held a desperate plea. But if you fight, if you stand with us, you could change everything. We don't even know what we'd be fighting for, Bruce said, his voice cautious. You say you're the rebellion, but what does that mean? What's your vision? What comes after the Empire falls? The restoration of the Republic, Morellin said immediately. A democratic system where planets govern themselves, where force sensitives aren't hunted, where dissent isn't punishable by death. The galaxy we had before Palpatine seized power. And how did that Republic let someone like Palpatine seize power? Strange asked, his tone sharp. I've been reviewing the historical data. The Republic existed for 1,000 years, then collapsed in a single generation. That suggests systemic rot, not just one evil man. Senator Morellin's face tightened. You're not wrong. The Republic was flawed, corrupt in places, complacent in others. But it was still better than this. The Empire isn't governance, it's occupation, slavery, genocide when convenient. Show them, Kale said quietly. Show them Alderaan. The holotable shifted, displaying a beautiful blue-green world Cities and oceans, mountains and forests, a civilization in harmony with its environment. Then the image changed to a historical recording, a massive space station, moon-sized, its super laser focusing with terrible purpose. The beam struck Alderaan, and the planet simply ceased to exist, exploded into asteroid fragments in a matter of seconds. Billions of lives extinguished in an eye blink. The Avengers stared in horrified silence. "The Death Star," Marilyn said, her voice hollow. "The Empire's ultimate weapon. Destroyed by rebel forces at tremendous cost, but they're building another. This is what we're fighting. An enemy willing to commit planetary genocide to maintain control." Wanda's hands trembled, red energy flickering around her fingers. They killed billions, an entire world. Everyone on it, children, families, innocents. To make a point, Colonel Drebin finished. To show that no one is safe, that any planet could be next if they defy Imperial authority. That's the Empire's true weapon, not the Death Star itself, but the fear it creates. Tony's face had gone cold, his arc reactor pulsing with barely contained energy. "Friday. Verify that footage. Check for tampering, CGI, anything that could indicate it's propaganda." "Footage is authentic, boss. Cross-referencing with astronomical data, Alderaan's system no longer exists as a habitable world. Debris field matches projected distribution from planetary-scale detonation. Estimated death toll, 2 billion sentients." 2 billion, Bruce whispered, and his eyes flickered green. "They killed 2 billion people. And they'll kill billions more if it maintains their power," Marilyn said. "That's what you're facing. Not soldiers following orders, not misguided idealists. Genuine, calculated evil operating on a galactic scale." Steve's jaw was set, his eyes distant with the kind of rage that came from witnessing atrocity. The Avengers had seen him like this before. When he learned about Hydra's infiltration of S.H.I.E.L.D., when he discovered the truth about his parents' death, when Thanos snapped half the universe to dust. It was the fury of a good man, pushed beyond his limits. "No," he said quietly. "No, that doesn't happen again. Not while we're here to stop it." "Cap," Natasha cautioned. "We don't know how to get home yet. If we commit to fighting the Empire, we could be stuck here for years, maybe permanently." "Then we're stuck," Steve said, and there was finality in his voice. "I didn't survive the ice for 70 years just to stand by and watch genocide happen because it's not my galaxy. These people." He gestured to the holographic images of Alderaan, to Lyra and her resistance fighters, to the desperate hope in Senator Marilyn's eyes. "They deserve the same freedom we fought for on Earth. If we can help, we help. That's what Avengers do." Thor nodded slowly, Stormbreaker humming with agreement. "The All-Father taught that power carries responsibility. To witness evil and do nothing is to become complicit in it. I stand with Captain Rogers." "As do I," Vision said. "The Empire's actions violate every ethical principle I was designed to uphold. I cannot in good conscience prioritize our return home over preventing further atrocities." Wanda's chaos magic swirled around her hands, barely controlled. "They destroyed a world, killed everyone on it. If we can stop them from doing that again, we have to try." "Bruce?" Steve asked, looking at the scientist who held the Hulk's power but hated using it. Bruce was quiet for a long moment, his internal struggle visible in every line of his face. "I hate fighting. I hate what the Hulk represents, the loss of control, the potential for destruction. But you're asking me to choose between my comfort and 2 billion lives." He met Steve's eyes. "That's not really a choice at all." Clint shrugged, checking his quiver. "I'm in." but I reserve the right to complain about it. Natasha's smile was dangerous. Someone needs to teach these Imperials that uniforms and overwhelming force don't make you invincible. Might as well be us. Strange was the last to commit, his expression troubled but resolved. I swore an oath to protect this universe, our universe. But mystic arts practitioners understand that reality is broader than a single dimension. If we have the power to prevent genocide, we have the responsibility to act. He looked at Senator Merlin. But we do this our way. No suicide missions, no sacrificing civilians for tactical gains, no becoming what we're fighting against. Agreed? Agreed, Marilyn said. And for the first time, genuine hope blazed in her eyes. Welcome to the rebellion, Avengers. Kale moved to the holotable, pulling up star charts and Imperial deployment patterns. If you're serious about fighting the Empire, we need to discuss strategy. The rebellion's main forces are scattered, cell structure for security. But with your abilities, we could strike targets the Empire considers untouchable. Such as? Tony asked, his tactical mind already engaged. Imperial weapons development facilities. Inquisitor bases where Force-sensitive children are imprisoned. Slave labor camps. Propaganda centers. Colonel Dreven's smile was predatory. The Empire has grown complacent in 2 decades of absolute power. They don't expect surgical strikes from opponents with your capabilities. First, we need better intelligence on what we're facing, Steve said. This force, Vader used it to nearly kill me. If there are more like him, we need to understand it. There's someone who can help with that, Lyra said quietly. Someone who survived the Jedi Purge, someone who might be willing to teach you what you need to know. A Jedi? Wanda leaned forward. They're not all dead. Not all. A few survived, went into hiding. Most won't reveal themselves. The Inquisitors hunt them relentlessly. But there's one. He's on Tatooine, a desert world far from Imperial centers of power. His name is Ben Kenobi, a voice said from the shadows. The Avengers spun, weapons and powers activating instantly. A figure stepped into the light, an old man in desert robes, weathered face bearing the marks of hard years, but eyes that held depths of wisdom and sorrow. He moved with the quiet confidence of someone who'd faced death and walked away, who'd lost everything and kept going. Or Obi-Wan, if you prefer, he continued, his hand resting on a cylindrical device at his belt, a lightsaber, though inactive. I felt your arrival in the Force, a disturbance unlike anything I've experienced. Beings from beyond the galaxy, beyond reality itself, carrying power that shouldn't exist. He studied each of them. You're either the galaxy's salvation or its doom, possibly both. Steve's shield remained raised. How did you find us? The Force guided me. It's curious about you, disturbed by your presence, but also hopeful. Obi-Wan's expression was wry. Much like I am. I've spent 20 years hiding, waiting, protecting something precious while the Empire crushes the galaxy. Then you arrive, fight Vader to a standstill, and suddenly the impossible seems possible again. You know Vader, Strange said, reading the old Jedi's expression. You've fought him before. Pain flickered across Obi-Wan's face. I trained him before he became what he is now. Before the Empire, before the dark side consumed him. His name was Anakin Skywalker, and he was the greatest Jedi of his generation. His voice went hollow. I failed him, and the galaxy paid the price. Thor stepped forward, lightning dancing in his eyes. You speak of this force as though it's a living thing. In Asgard, we have legends of cosmic powers that bind reality. Is this similar? Yes and no, Obi-Wan said. The Force is an energy field created by all living things. It binds the galaxy together, flows through every being. Some can sense it, manipulate it, use it to perform what you might call miracles. The Jedi were guardians of peace, using the Force to protect the innocent. The Sith, like Vader and the Emperor, use it as a weapon, a tool for domination. Can it be taught? Wanda asked, her chaos magic flickering. Could we learn to use it? Obi-Wan studied her for a long moment. Your power is different, similar in some ways, but fundamentally alien to the Force. I sense great potential in you and great danger. The Force responds to emotion, intention, balance. What you wield seems to be chaos itself. He shook his head slowly. I don't know if you could learn the Force, or if you even should. Mixing powers this different. He trailed off, troubled. But you can teach us to defend against it, Steve said. Help us understand what we're facing. I can try. Though, understand, the Force is not simply a set of abilities to counter. It's a philosophy, a way of perceiving reality. The Emperor and Vader have studied it for decades, mastered its darkest aspects. You're asking me to prepare you to face the two most dangerous Force users alive, with only days or weeks of training. Then we'd better get started, Tony said. Because according to our new friends, the Empire isn't going to wait for us to be ready. Obi-Wan looked at Senator Marilyn. You're committing them to war. They don't know this galaxy, don't understand the stakes. They destroyed a planet, Marilyn replied quietly. They understand exactly what the stakes are. The old Jedi's shoulders sagged slightly, the weight of responsibility settling onto them once more. Very well, I'll teach you what I can. But know this, the path you're choosing leads to darkness, to sacrifice, to losses that will haunt you. The Empire doesn't fight fair. Vader doesn't show mercy. And the Emperor. He paused, ancient fear flickering in his eyes. Darth Sidious is evil incarnate. He's orchestrated galactic war, genocide, the fall of civilizations. And now you've drawn his attention. Let him look, Steve said, his voice iron. We've faced gods and titans. We'll face him too. Far above, in the Imperial palace, Emperor Palpatine sat on his throne, reaching out through the Force with senses that spanned light years. He felt the old Jedi's presence, Kenobi, the persistent survivor, and the strange, bright voids where the Avengers existed, visible only by the disturbances they created in the Force. So, he whispered, the last Jedi crawls from his hiding place to train my new acquisitions. How convenient. His withered hand closed into a fist. Let them train. Let them learn. Let them believe they can resist. His smile was death. It will make breaking them so much sweeter. Training began in the lowest levels of Coruscant, in chambers so deep that even the planet's geological sensors had forgotten they existed. Obi-Wan had transformed an ancient maintenance facility into a makeshift training ground. The vast space lit by flickering glow panels and the occasional spark from deteriorating power conduits. The air was thick with moisture and the smell of rust, but it was secure, shielded from Imperial surveillance by layers of duracrete and the Force itself. The Force, Obi-Wan began, standing before the assembled Avengers, is not a weapon you draw when needed. It's a constant presence, flowing through and around all living things. Jedi spend years learning to sense it, decades mastering its use. I can't make you Force sensitive in days or weeks, but I can teach you to recognize its application, to anticipate what Force users can do and perhaps to resist it. He gestured, and a piece of debris lifted from the ground, floating between his hands with gentle precision. Telekinesis is the most common application, moving objects, deflecting projectiles, even restraining opponents. Captain Rogers experienced this firsthand with Vader's Force choke. Steve unconsciously rubbed his throat. How do we counter it? Willpower, primarily. The Force works through the mind as much as physical reality. A strong will can resist mental intrusion, slow physical manipulation. Your enhanced physiology helped you survive what would kill a normal human instantly. Obi-Wan lowered the debris. But against someone like Vader or the Emperor, willpower alone won't be enough. You need to break their concentration, force them to divide their attention. Like what Tony did, Natasha observed. His repulsor blast broke Vader's focus, let Steve drop. Precisely. Force abilities require concentration, especially the more powerful applications. Strike fast, strike hard. Don't let them settle into their power. Obi-Wan's expression grew grave. But understand, Vader and Sidious have fought hundreds of battles. They've adapted to every tactic, every counter. What worked once may not work again. Thor stepped forward, Stormbreaker humming at his side. You speak of mental discipline. In Asgard, warriors train to resist magical compulsion, psychic assault. Is this similar? Similar, yes. But the Force is more subtle. It can read surface thoughts, sense intentions, even glimpse possible futures. Vader knew where you'd strike before you moved, Captain Rogers. He anticipated Doctor Strange's defensive spells. That's Force precognition, reading the flow of events before they occur. Bruce's eyes widened. That's quantum probability manipulation. He's collapsing wave functions in his favor. Obi-Wan blinked. I don't know what those words mean. But if your science explains it, perhaps. The Jedi called it seeing through the Force. The dark side version is more aggressive, forcing outcomes rather than flowing with them. Strange floated cross-legged, hands weaving subtle patterns. I've encountered precognition before. The Time Stone allowed me to view millions of possible futures. But this Force precognition, it seems more instinctive, less comprehensive, but faster in application. The Emperor can see years ahead, Obi-Wan warned. He orchestrated the Clone Wars, manipulated the Republic's fall, eliminated the Jedi, all planned decades in advance. Your arrival is a variable he didn't foresee, which makes you dangerous to him. But he's adapting, calculating, turning your presence to his advantage, even now. Then we don't give him time to plan, Steve said. Senator Merlane mentioned targets, facilities we could strike. We hit them fast, keep the Empire reacting instead of acting. A sound strategy. Colonel Dreven's voice came from the entrance. He approached with Kale and Marilyn, carrying datapads and holographic projectors. We've identified 3 priority targets within striking distance. The holographic display materialized, showing a star map with 3 systems highlighted in red. First, Wobani, Imperial labor camp housing political prisoners, rebel sympathizers, and captured Force sensitives awaiting Inquisitor interrogation. Security is heavy but not insurmountable. Liberating it would save thousands and strike a major propaganda blow. Second, Scarif, Imperial security complex containing the archives. Every secret project, every weapon development, every prisoner record. Intelligence value is immeasurable, but it's also one of the most heavily defended facilities in the Empire. Third, Mustafar, Vader's personal fortress. A Sith stronghold where he communes with the dark side and coordinates Inquisitor operations across the galaxy. Dreven's expression was grim. It's also where he's most powerful. The dark side is strong there. Attacking him on his home ground would be inadvisable. Unless, Obi-Wan said quietly, you wanted to send a message that nowhere is safe, that even the Dark Lord's sanctum can be breached. Tony's holographic interface overlaid the star map with tactical analyses Friday was generating in real time. Wobani is closest. 2 days hyperspace travel with the ships the rebellion can provide. Moderate defenses, clear objectives, good first strike. Agreed, Steve said. We free the prisoners, gather intelligence on Imperial operations, and prove the rebellion can hit targets that matter. Scarif and Mustafar can wait. There's a complication, Kyle interjected. The Empire knows you're on Coruscant. They've sealed the planet. Getting you off-world without alerting every Star Destroyer in the system will be difficult. Vision tilted his head, processing. Could I phase us through their scanning protocols? My density manipulation might allow me to shield a small vessel from detection. Theoretically possible, Kale said, his technical mind racing. If you could extend your molecular manipulation field around a ship's hull, it might ghost through their sensors. But maintaining that for hours during hyperspace travel? I can sustain it, Vision confirmed. The Mind Stone provides virtually unlimited energy. As long as the ship's basic systems don't conflict with my field, it should function. Then we have our exit strategy, Marilyn said. I'll arrange for a light freighter, fast, maneuverable, inconspicuous. It won't be comfortable, but it'll get you to Wobani. What about the Empire's response? Natasha asked. Once we hit Wobani, they'll know we've left Coruscant. They'll fortify every other target. Let them, Wanda said, her eyes hard. Every ship they send to protect a prison is one less ship oppressing a planet. We make them spread thin, force them to defend everything, then strike where they're weakest. Obi-Wan studied her with concern. You speak with conviction. But conviction without temperance leads to the dark side. The Jedi failed because they became rigid, inflexible. Don't let your justified anger turn you into what you're fighting. I've walked close to darkness before, Wanda said quietly. I've lost control, hurt people I cared about, but I've also learned to channel it, to use my anger without letting it use me. This is different. This is choosing to fight, not being consumed by rage. The line is thinner than you think, Obi-Wan warned. I've seen good people, the best people, fall to the dark side because they believed the ends justified the means. Anakin thought he was saving the galaxy when he helped Palpatine destroy the Jedi. We're not him, Steve said firmly. We have each other, accountability, people to pull us back if we go too far. That's what makes us Avengers. We check each other's worst impulses. I hope you're right. Obi-Wan's expression was troubled. Because the Emperor will try to turn you. He'll offer power, knowledge, the ability to return home. He'll find your weaknesses. His eyes settled on Tony, then Bruce, then Wanda, and exploit them ruthlessly. We've faced corruption before, Thor rumbled. My brother Loki tried for years to turn me from my path. The Mad Titan Thanos offered me power in exchange for submission. We know how to resist temptation. Do you? Obi-Wan asked softly. Have you faced temptation when it wore the face of necessity? When refusing meant watching innocents die? The dark side doesn't announce itself. It comes as pragmatism, as the only choice, as the lesser evil. The chamber fell silent, the weight of his words settling over them. Clint broke the tension. So, basically, don't trust anything that seems too good to be true, don't make deals with the Emperor, and if someone offers us an easy solution, it's probably a trap. Succinctly put, yes. Great. Been there, done that, got the PTSD. Clint's smile was sardonic. We've dealt with Loki's mind games, Hydra's manipulation, and Thanos' twisted philosophy. I think we can handle one evil Emperor. I sincerely hope so, Obi-Wan said. Because if you fall, if the Emperor corrupts beings with your level of power, this galaxy won't survive what comes next. Training continued for 3 days. Obi-Wan taught them to recognize the subtle distortions that preceded force attacks. The way air pressure changed before telekinesis, the mental static before mind tricks, the killing intent before force lightning. He couldn't make them force sensitive, but he could sharpen their awareness, help them survive encounters with those who were. Steve learned to read body language that betrayed force use, the slight stance shifts that preceded attacks. Natasha practiced resisting mental influence through meditation techniques the Jedi had developed over millennia. Thor discovered that Asgardian physiology had some natural resistance to force manipulation, his divine nature making him harder to affect. Bruce worked on maintaining control during stress, preventing the Hulk from emerging at inopportune moments. Wanda's training was different. Obi-Wan sensed something in her chaos magic that resonated strangely with the Force. Not the same, but adjacent, like parallel frequencies that could interfere with each other. Your power disrupts the Force, he told her during a private session. When you use it near me, I feel static, uncertainty. The future becomes clouded. Is that bad? For the Emperor and Vader? Potentially devastating. Their precognition relies on reading the Force's flow. If you can disrupt that, you might be the key to defeating them. He paused. But it's dangerous. Chaos magic, if that's truly what it is, has no light or dark side. It simply is. Without discipline, without control, it could tear reality apart. I've been working on control, Wanda said. Vision helps me, keeps me grounded. Good. You'll need that anchor. Because when you face Vader or the Emperor, they'll try to break it. They'll show you visions of those you've lost, promises of bringing them back, anything to make you lose control. Wanda's jaw set. They can try. I've already lost everything once. I survived. I'll survive again. Strange spent hours in meditation with Obi-Wan, comparing notes on mystical philosophy. The Jedi's approach was more spiritual, less overtly manipulative than the mystic arts. But the underlying principles were similar. Will shaping reality, consciousness affecting physical law. Your magic draws from other dimensions, Obi-Wan observed. The Force is native to this reality. That's your advantage. You bring power from sources the Emperor can't access or counter. But also my limitation, Strange countered. I'm drawing energy across dimensional boundaries. It's like trying to power a house with an extension cord running through a wormhole. Functional, but inefficient and potentially unstable. Can you adapt? Learn to draw from this reality's energy instead? Strange considered. Possibly. But it would take months, maybe years. And there's no guarantee the techniques would work. My magic and your Force might be fundamentally incompatible. Then use what you have. The Emperor expects Force abilities. Show him something completely different. The Sith's greatest weakness is arrogance. They believe they've mastered the only true power in the galaxy. Prove them wrong. On the third night, Kyle arrived with news. The freighter is ready. Modified hyperdrive, stealth coating, smuggling compartments in case you need to hide. It's not much, but it'll get you to Wobani. What about getting past Imperial blockades? Tony asked. That's where your friend comes in. Kale gestured to Vision. If his molecular manipulation works as theorized, you'll ghost through their sensors. But boss, if it fails, if they detect you, every Star Destroyer in orbit will converge on your position. You'll have maybe 5 minutes before they box you in. Then we don't fail, Steve said. Everyone gear up. We leave at Midnight cycle. When the Empire's shift changes, maximum confusion. The Avengers prepared with the methodical efficiency of a team that had fought together through impossible odds. Tony ran diagnostics on his armor, calibrating repulsors for space combat. Natasha checked her Widow's bites, loaded with power cells that Kale had adapted from Imperial technology. Clint fletched new arrows, explosive tips, EMP warheads, grappling hooks. Thor communed with Stormbreaker, lightning crackling softly along the blade. Bruce meditated, keeping the Hulk calm but ready. Wanda practiced fine control, levitating debris with millimeter precision. Strange reviewed defensive spells, adapting them for force attacks. Senator Marilyn approached Steve as he tightened his shield's arm straps. Captain Rogers, I want to thank you for committing to this fight when you have no obligation to do so. We always have an obligation, Steve replied, to do what's right, regardless of the cost. Even if you can never return home? Steve was quiet for a moment. I spent 70 years displaced in time. Everyone I knew gone, the world I fought for changed beyond recognition. I learned that home isn't a place or a time. It's purpose. As long as we're fighting for something that matters, we're home enough. Marilan's eyes glistened. The Republic's Senate used to have people like you. People who believed in principles over profit, justice over power. The Empire hunted them down, killed them, corrupted them. To meet someone with that conviction again? She trailed off. Don't let them take it from you. Don't let them make you into something you're not. That's a promise, Steve said. Midnight arrived. The Avengers boarded the freighter, a battered YT-2400 that had seen better decades, its hull patched with mismatched plating, its systems jury-rigged to keep functioning. Lyra piloted, her hands steady on controls she'd flown 1,000 times. Coruscant Flight Control, this is Freighter. Wandering Star requesting departure clearance for routine cargo run to Corellia. She transmitted, her voice perfectly casual. Wandering Star, stand by for security scan. Vision placed his hands on the hull's interior, his form beginning to shimmer. The Mind Stone blazed, and his molecular manipulation field expanded, enveloping the entire ship. To sensors, they would appear as nothing. A ghost, a sensor glitch, background radiation. Scan complete. Wandering Star, you are clear for departure. Maintain designated flight corridor. The freighter lifted, engines humming, climbing through Coruscant's endless traffic lanes. TIE fighters patrolled overhead, star destroyers hung in orbit like metal moons, sensor nets swept the space between. But Vision's field held. They were invisible, intangible, slipping through the Empire's iron grip like smoke. Hyperspace in 30 seconds, Lyra announced. Everyone hold on. This ship's inertial compensators are older than I am. The stars stretched, reality twisted, and the Avengers vanished into hyperspace, leaving Coruscant behind. In the Imperial Palace, an alarm screamed. My lord, Grand Moff Tarkin reported, his face pale on the holographic display. They've escaped. The anomalies breached the blockade through means we don't understand. Sensors recorded nothing, as though they simply ceased to exist. Emperor Palpatine sat motionless on his throne, his withered face betraying no emotion. But through the Force, he reached out, sensing, searching. The disturbances were moving, heading into the outer rim, toward Wobani. Of course, he whispered. They go to play hero, to free prisoners and inspire hope. His smile was predatory. Lord Vader, are your Inquisitors in position? Vader's mechanical breathing echoed across the comm. They are, my master. The third sister awaits at Wobani with 2 full legions. When the anomalies arrive, we will be ready. See that you are. But Vader, Palpatine's voice became silk, over steel. I want at least one of them alive, preferably the Witch or the Machine Man. Their abilities intrigue me. Bring them to me, and I will unlock secrets they cannot imagine. As you command, my master. The transmission ended. Palpatine steepled his fingers, ancient eyes gleaming with dark anticipation. Come, Avengers, he murmured. Come play your heroics. Every move you make teaches me more. Every power you reveal becomes a weapon I can turn against you. He laughed, a sound like death itself. And when I'm finished, you'll beg to serve me. They always do. Wobani emerged from hyperspace like a tumor. A gray world of prison complexes and forced labor camps, its natural beauty buried beneath Imperial durasteel and automated gun emplacements. The planet's surface was scarred with mining operations, its atmosphere thick with industrial pollution. From orbit, the Avengers could see the sprawling detention centers, each capable of housing 50,000 prisoners in conditions that made Earth's worst gulags look merciful. That's our target, Lyra said, highlighting the largest complex on her nav computer. Detention Center 41 houses approximately 30,000 political prisoners, rebel sympathizers, and captured force sensitives. Security includes 2 full Imperial legions, 10,000 stormtroopers, automated defense turrets, shield generators, and a garrison of AT-AT walkers. Cheerful place, Clint muttered. Do they have a gift shop? Tony's scanners were already dissecting the facility's defenses. Friday, analysis. Impressive fortifications, boss. Shield generator is the primary concern. Deflects everything from orbital bombardment to ground assault. Located in the central complex, hardened bunker, redundant power supplies. Without disabling it, penetrating the facility will be difficult. Can you hack it? Imperial security protocols are sophisticated but not insurmountable. However, I'll need physical access to their network, proximity of 50 meters or less. So we need to get close without triggering every alarm on the planet, Natasha said. Suggestions? Strange floated cross-legged, hands weaving contemplative patterns. I could open a portal directly inside the facility, bypass external defenses entirely. That would announce our presence immediately, Vision observed. The moment we emerge, every trooper in the complex converges on our position. We'd be fighting through 10,000 soldiers while trying to evacuate 30,000 prisoners. Not ideal, Steve agreed. We need a diversion, something to split their forces, draw attention away from the main assault. Thor's grin was fierce. I volunteer. Let me announce myself at the front gate, challenge their warriors to honorable combat. While they focus on me, the rest of you breach from another angle. That's actually not terrible, Tony admitted. Thor draws fire, literally. The rest of us slip in during the chaos, disable the shields, free the prisoners. Thor extracts when things get hot. How hot? Bruce asked quietly, knowing the answer. Probably very hot, Clint said. Which is where you come in, big guy. We might need the Hulk to punch through some walls. Bruce's expression tightened. I'll do what's necessary, but let's try to avoid leveling the entire facility with prisoners still inside. Agreed, Steve said. This is a rescue operation, not a demolition derby. We get in, free the prisoners, and get out with minimal casualties on both sides if possible. They're imprisoning innocents, Wanda said, her accent thickening with anger. They don't deserve mercy. Everyone deserves the chance to surrender, Steve countered. We're not executioners, Wanda. We fight when we have to, but we don't kill just because it's convenient. Her scarlet eyes flashed. Tell that to the 2 billion people on Alderaan. I can't. They're gone. But we can save these 30,000. and we do it without becoming what we're fighting. Steve's voice was firm but not unkind. I know you're angry. I am too. But anger without discipline makes us no better than the Empire. Wanda held his gaze for a long moment, then nodded slowly. Non-lethal when possible. But if they threaten prisoners, then we stop them, permanently if necessary. Steve turned to the others. Everyone clear? We go in fast, hit hard, but we give them chances to stand down. And when they don't, Natasha asked, then we make sure they can't hurt anyone else. The wandering star descended toward Wobani's northern hemisphere, using the planet's magnetic interference and Vision's molecular field to avoid detection. Lyra set them down in a canyon 30 kilometers from Detention Center 41, the freighter's landing gear settling onto rocky terrain with a hiss of hydraulics. This is as close as I can get without triggering proximity sensors, she said. You'll have to cover the last stretch on foot, or however you people travel. We'll manage, Tony said, his armor's boot jets activating. Thor, you're up. Give us a show they won't forget. The god of thunder grinned, eyes crackling with lightning. With pleasure. He raised Stormbreaker high, channeling power until he blazed like a captive star. Then he launched himself skyward, a thunderbolt made flesh, arcing across the sky toward the prison complex. Thor's landing shook the ground like an earthquake. He came down in front of the facility's main gate, Stormbreaker embedded in Duracrete, lightning spreading in crackling webs across the ground. The impact crater was 5 meters wide. Every sensor in the complex screamed alerts. Every stormtrooper within visual range stared in shock at the glowing figure standing before their impregnable fortress. Defenders of this stronghold! Thor's voice boomed across the complex, amplified by Asgardian projection techniques that made him heard for kilometers. I am Thor Odinson, son of Odin, god of thunder. You have imprisoned innocents, committed acts of tyranny, violated every law of honorable warfare. The main gate's turbolaser batteries swiveled, locking onto him. Red targeting lasers painted his chest from a dozen directions. I demand your immediate surrender. Release your prisoners and stand down, or face the wrath of Asgard. In the control center, Commander Blott, a career officer who'd overseen Wobani for 5 years without incident, stared at the holographic display in disbelief. What in the Emperor's name is that? Unknown, sir. Energy readings are off. The scale. He matches descriptions of the anomalies from Coruscant, the ones who fought Lord Vader. Blott's blood went cold. Sound general alarm. All units to combat stations. Activate the shield generator, and someone get me a line to Imperial Command. We need reinforcements. Sir, should we engage? Blott looked at the figure standing calmly before their gate, glowing with power that made their sensors scream. Fire everything we have. Turbo lasers, missile batteries, everything. Kill that thing before it gets inside. The complex erupted in fire. Turbo laser bolts, each capable of punching through starship armor, converged on Thor's position. Concussion missiles streaked from launch tubes. Automated defense turrets added their own barrage. The amount of firepower being directed at a single target would have obliterated a tank battalion. Thor raised Stormbreaker, and lightning answered. The bolts struck his blade, absorbed, channeled, amplified. He spun the axe, deflecting. Shots with precision that defied physics and hurled back lightning that vaporized gun emplacements. A missile exploded mid-flight, detonated by a lightning bolt. Another was caught by Stormbreaker's edge, redirected back at the gate, where it blasted a 5-meter hole in Durasteel. Your weapons are insufficient, Thor bellowed, striding forward through the barrage. I have weathered the fires of Muspelheim. I have walked the frozen wastes of Jotunheim. Your petty armaments cannot harm the son of Odin. Inside the complex, 10,000 stormtroopers mobilized. AT-ST walkers powered up, their massive frames emerging from hangar bays. TIE fighters scrambled from landing pads, screaming into the sky. The Empire's military machine, refined through decades of brutal efficiency, responded with overwhelming force, which was exactly what the Avengers needed. While every eye focused on Thor's spectacular assault, Strange opened a portal 300 meters from the shield generator bunker. The golden circle appeared in a maintenance corridor, unnoticed, undetected. Steve, Natasha, Tony, Clint, and Vision stepped through, weapons ready. "We've got maybe 10 minutes before they realize Thor's a diversion," Steve said. "Friday, guide us to that generator." "Already mapped, boss. 300 meters north, through 2 security checkpoints and 1 armored door. You'll encounter minimal resistance. Most of the garrison is responding to Thor." They moved like shadows, a well-oiled machine honed through countless missions. Steve led, shield ready, his tactical mind processing every angle. Natasha flanked, silent as death. Tony's repulsors hummed at ready power. Clint's bow tracked potential threats. Vision phased through walls, scouting ahead. The first security checkpoint had 6 guards. They were alert but distracted, watching holographic feeds of Thor's battle. Natasha dropped 3 with widow's bites before they could raise weapons. Steve's shield took out 2 more, non-lethal strikes that left them unconscious. The 6th managed to trigger an alarm before Vision's density-shifted hand passed through his weapon, rendering it useless, and Clint's stun arrow dropped him. "Alarms triggered," Tony said. "They know we're here." "Then we move faster," Steve said. "Vision, that armored door?" The synthezoid phased through, his hand reaching back to manipulate the locking mechanism from inside. The door hissed open, revealing the shield generator, a massive cylindrical device thrumming with contained energy, surrounded by control consoles and monitoring equipment, and 30 stormtroopers, weapons raised. "Contact!" The sergeant's voice was sharp. "Fire!" The corridor erupted in blaster fire. Steve's shield caught the first volley, vibranium singing as crimson bolts ricocheted harmlessly. Tony's repulsors answered, precise shots disabling weapons without killing. Natasha moved like liquid through their formation, nerve strikes and joint locks dropping. Soldiers. Clint's arrows flew. Net traps, electrified tips, stun charges, taking down multiple targets. Vision phased through their ranks, his density manipulation making him untouchable. He emerged at the generator's control console, his fingers capable of processing data faster than any computer, interfacing with Imperial systems. "Friday, I need you to synchronize with my analysis," Vision said calmly, even as blaster bolts passed through his intangible form. "Imperial encryption is more sophisticated than anticipated." "On it, Vision. Establishing connection." "Got it. Shield generator control protocols are locked behind 3-stage authentication. Give me 30 seconds. "We don't have 30 seconds," Clint shouted, loosing another arrow that took down 2 troopers with expanding foam. "They're bringing reinforcements." The armored door behind them exploded inward. An AT-ST walker forced its way into the corridor, impossible to fit, but the pilot had simply crashed through walls to reach them. Its chin-mounted blasters swiveled toward the Avengers. "Move!" Steve's shield was already flying, striking the viewport. The transparent steel cracked but held. The walkers' weapons tracked, preparing to fire in the confined space where evasion was impossible. Tony's unibeam screamed to life, a concentrated arc reactor blast that punched through the walker's lighter side armor. Systems exploded and the walker collapsed, but more were coming, the distinctive thunder of AT-AT footfalls shaking the complex. "Friday, we need that shield down now." "Almost there, boss. Final authentication. Bypassed. Shield generator is yours." Vision's eyes glowed with the Mind Stone's power. Energy surged through the console, overriding safeties, pushing the generator past its design limits. The cylindrical device began to whine, a rising pitch that spoke of imminent catastrophe. "Overload initiated," Vision said. "We have 45 seconds before catastrophic failure. Recommend immediate evacuation." "Everyone out," Steve ordered. "Back the way we came." They ran, even as the complex shook with the generator's death throes. Behind them, the device's whine reached a crescendo. Then it detonated. Not an explosion, but an implosion. The contained energy collapsing inward, taking the bunker and 50 meters of surrounding structure with it. The shield flickered, stuttered, and died. "Shields down," Tony transmitted to Wanda, Bruce, and Strange, who'd been waiting at the prison blocks. "You're clear to extract prisoners." Strange's portals bloomed throughout the detention center, golden circles appearing in cell blocks where 30,000 prisoners had spent months or years awaiting execution, forced labor, or interrogation. Wanda's chaos magic tore through electronic locks, her powers guided by righteous fury and precise control. "Everyone through the portals," she called, her voice amplified by magic. "We're evacuating you to safety. Move quickly. The prisoners, humans and aliens, young and old, guilty of nothing but opposing tyranny, stared in shock. Then they ran, flooding through Strange's portals to coordinates the rebellion had provided, safe houses and hidden bases across a dozen worlds. Bruce stood guard, still in human form but feeling the Hulk stirring. "We've got incoming." Stormtroopers were converging, platoons of white-armored soldiers responding to the breach with military precision. "Then we hold them off," Wanda said, her hands blazing scarlet. "They don't get past us." Her chaos magic erupted, a wave of reality-warping power that caught the leading edge of stormtroopers and simply scattered them. Weapons flew from hands, armor pieces unbuckled. Soldiers found themselves lifted and deposited gently but firmly in empty cells. Strange's defensive mandalas caught blaster fire, reflecting it back or dispersing it into harmless energy. "We need to accelerate the evacuation. Imperial reinforcements are arriving. I sense a massive dark side presence approaching." "Vader?" Wanda said, her jaw tight. "He's coming." "Then let him come," Bruce said, and his eyes were glowing green. "I think it's time he met my other half." Outside, Thor was surrounded. 3 AT-STs walkers formed a triangle around him, their heavy laser cannons firing in coordinated patterns. TIE fighters strafed from above, their twin-ion engines screaming. 500 stormtroopers maintained a perimeter, pouring blaster fire into the kill zone. And Thor was laughing. "Is this the best the Empire can offer?" He spun Stormbreaker in a wide arc, lightning erupting in a 360-degree wave that flash-fried circuitry and sent soldiers flying. "I have fought frost giants. I have battled dark elves. I have stood against Thanos himself." And AT-ST's massive foot came down, trying to crush him. Thor caught it with one hand, his Asgardian strength enough to halt 15 tons of moving durasteel. Lightning surged up, the leg, through the body, and the walker's systems exploded. It toppled, crew ejecting before impact. "Another falls!" Thor hurled Stormbreaker at the second walker, the axe punching through its head-mounted cockpit and emerging from the other side. The pilotless machine stood frozen, then collapsed like a puppet with cut strings. The third walker's commander made a tactical decision. "All units, full retreat. Fall back to secondary positions." But it was too late. A tie. Advanced fighters screamed out of the sky, its distinctive scream announcing the arrival of something far more dangerous than any walker or legion. It landed with precision, the hatch opening to reveal a figure in black armor, red lightsaber igniting with a snap hiss that cut through the chaos. Darth Vader stepped onto the battlefield, and the very air seemed to grow cold. Thor's smile faded, replaced by battle focus. He called Stormbreaker back to his hand, lightning crackling along its length. "We meet again, Dark Lord. This time there will be no interrupted battles, no distractions, just thee and I, warrior to warrior." Vader's mechanical breathing was the only response. Then he moved. The Sith Lord was impossibly fast, closing 30 meters in seconds, his lightsaber a crimson blur. Thor swung Stormbreaker to parry, Uru metal meeting plasma blade. Sparks exploded. The ground cracked beneath their feet from the force of impact. They separated, circled, two titans of different realities testing each other. "Your power is considerable," Vader acknowledged, his voice mechanical and cold. "But power without discipline is nothing. The Force shows me your every move before you make it." "Then try to see this." Thor channeled every ounce of his divine might, calling down lightning from the sky itself. The bolt struck Vader directly, power enough to vaporize a building. The Dark Lord raised his hand, catching the lightning in a force barrier. It scattered around him, scorching the ground, but leaving him untouched. The effort cost him. His breathing hitched, labored, but he held. "Impressive," Vader said, "but insufficient." His lightsaber swept in a pattern too fast to follow, each strike aimed at vital points. Thor blocked with Stormbreaker, his combat experience spanning 1,000 years guiding his defense. But Vader's precognition let him anticipate, adjust, exploit every micro-opening. The lightsaber scored across Thor's armor, burning a line through Asgardian mail. Thor grunted, retaliated with a hammer blow that would have shattered stone. Vader dodged, using the force to propel himself backward, then thrust his hand forward. Thor felt invisible pressure close around him. Not a choke, but a telekinetic grip trying to immobilize him. He roared, divine strength pushing against force power, and for a moment, they were locked in a contest of raw will versus cosmic energy. Inside the prison, the last prisoners evacuated through Strange's portals. 30,000 souls saved, then the portals snapped shut, and the remaining Avengers converged on Thor's position. "He's facing Vader alone," Wanda said, watching through her chaos magic. "We need to help him." "We need to leave," Strange countered. "The mission's complete. Every second we stay risks." An explosion rocked the complex, not from weapons, but from Bruce's transformation. The Hulk emerged, massive and green, and absolutely done with restraint. "Hulk smash Empire!" he roared, and began ripping through walls to reach the battle outside. Steve made a decision. "We don't leave teammates behind. Everyone moves to extract Thor. Wanda, can you disrupt Vader's force abilities?" "I can try." They burst onto the battlefield, and Vader's attention split, exactly the opening Thor needed. Stormbreaker came down in an overhead strike that the Sith Lord barely dodged, the axe cleaving a 5-meter furrow in the ground. "Lord Vader," a new voice, female, cold as ice. From the sky descended 7 figures in dark robes, lightsabers igniting. The Inquisitors had arrived. "The Emperor commands these anomalies be taken alive. All units, converge." Vader's helmet tilted, regarding the Avengers with calculation. He was powerful, but even he couldn't face all of them simultaneously. Not while protecting Inquisitors who were formidable, but not his equal. "This engagement is concluded," Vader said. "But we will meet again, and next time." His lightsaber swept toward Steve, toward Wanda, toward each of them. "You will not escape." He force-leaped back to his TIE Advanced, the fighter's engines screaming to life. The Inquisitors followed, spinning lightsabers, creating a defensive perimeter as they retreated. "They're running," Clint said, surprised. "We actually made them retreat." "They're regrouping," Natasha corrected, "preparing for round 2 with better intelligence and more resources." "Then we'd better not be here when they come back," Steve said. "Everyone to the freighter, now." The Avengers ran, the Hulk bounding ahead with earth-shaking leaps as Imperial reinforcements began arriving. Star destroyers dropping out of hyperspace, their turbo-laser batteries preparing to bombard the entire complex rather than let the anomalies escape. Strange opened one final portal, directly to the Wandering Star's cargo bay. They tumbled through as the first orbital strikes hit, turning Detention Center 41 into molten slag. "Go!" Steve shouted to Lyra, who was already firing engines. The freighter lifted, Vision's molecular field enveloping them again. They shot through the atmosphere as star destroyers converged, their sensors blind to the ghost ships slipping through their formation. Hyperspace opened, reality twisted. They were gone. In the ruined complex below, Darth Vader stood amid the destruction, his breathing harsh with suppressed rage. They'd freed 30,000 prisoners, destroyed a major Imperial facility, humiliated his Inquisitors, made him retreat. The Emperor would not be pleased. "My lord," the third sister ventured carefully, "should we pursue?" "No," Vader said, his mechanical voice colder than vacuum. "Let them run. Let them believe they've won." His fist clenched. "The Emperor has a plan for them, and when it unfolds, they will beg for the mercy of a simple death." The rebellion's hidden base was carved into an asteroid field in the Polis Massa system, a location chosen for its remoteness and the natural sensor interference the rocks provided. The Wandering Star docked in a hangar bay that had once been a mining facility, now repurposed with weapon emplacements and shield generators. As the Avengers disembarked, they found themselves facing something they hadn't expected: hope. Hundreds of rebel operatives lined the hangar, watching with expressions that ranged from awe to disbelief. Senator Marilan stood at the forefront, and when she saw them emerge unharmed, her carefully maintained composure finally cracked. Her smile was genuine, transforming her worn face. "You did it," she said simply. 30,000 souls, freed in a single operation. Do you have any idea what this means? "It means the Empire knows exactly where to hit us next," Natasha said pragmatically, checking her equipment. "We've announced ourselves. They'll be hunting us with everything they have." "Let them hunt," Colonel Drevin said, approaching with a datapad that glowed with incoming reports. "Because while they're chasing you, they're not crushing resistance cells. While they're fortifying prisons, they're not oppressing new systems. You forced them onto the defensive for the first time in 20 years. Thor clapped the colonel on the shoulder with enough force to stagger him. "You speak of strategy as though war is a game of tiles. But I see wisdom in your words. We have struck the beast, made it bleed. Now it will thrash and roar, revealing its nature to all who watch." "More than that," Kyle said, pulling up holographic displays. "The footage from Wobunny is spreading across 100 worlds. Holonet suppression can't keep up with the underground networks. People are seeing the Empire's forces retreat, seeing their detention centers breached, seeing beings who fight without fear." He looked at each of them. "You're becoming symbols, legends. Legends get people killed," Steve said quietly. "When they believe the legend can save them, they take risks they shouldn't. We need to be clear, we're not invincible. Vader nearly beat Thor one-on-one. If those Inquisitors had engaged instead of retreating, we might not have made it out." "But you did make it out," Senator Marilyn pressed. And that's what matters. For 2 decades, the rebellion has operated in shadows, striking targets of minimal value, barely surviving. You've given us something we haven't had since the Clone Wars ended: momentum. Tony's armor retracted, leaving him in the underlying mesh suit. Momentum's great until it carries you off a cliff. We need intelligence, not just enthusiasm. What's the Empire's next move? Obi-Wan materialized from the shadows. The old Jedi had arrived ahead of them, traveling by his own mysterious means. The Emperor will adapt. He's had 3 encounters with you now: Coruscant, the lower levels, and Wobani. Each time he's learned more about your capabilities, your tactics, your limitations. We have limitations? Clint asked with dark humor. Everyone does, and Palpatine is a master at finding them. Obi-Wan's expression was grave. He'll study the footage, analyze every second of combat. He'll identify patterns, weaknesses, psychological vulnerabilities. Then he'll design a trap specifically calibrated to exploit them. So we avoid his traps, Wanda said. Stay unpredictable. Difficult when he can see the future through the Force, Strange observed. He'd been meditating since they arrived, his consciousness spanning dimensions as he tried to understand the strange interplay between his magic and this galaxy's fundamental nature. I've been attempting to cloud his precognition using dimensional manipulation, creating blind spots by introducing probability branches from parallel realities. But it's like trying to blind someone by showing them too much light. Eventually they adapt, find patterns in the chaos. Vision tilted his head, processing. Perhaps that's the wrong approach. Rather than clouding his vision, we should feed him false information. Create decoy futures, probability paths that appear viable but lead nowhere. Can you do that? Bruce asked, still slightly green from the partial transformation at Wobani. The Hulk was closer to the surface these days, agitated by constant combat, eager to smash more Imperial forces. With Wanda's assistance, possibly. Her chaos magic disrupts the Force's natural flow. My Mind Stone can calculate probability matrices. Combined, we might create false futures the Emperor's precognition would read as genuine. Worth trying, Steve said. But that's long-term planning. Right now, we need short-term priorities. Marilyn, what targets matter most to the rebellion? The senator gestured to the holotable, where star maps illuminated with Imperial strongpoints and rebel objectives. Scarif remains our highest value target. The archives contain everything. Every secret project, every superweapon blueprint, every political prisoner's location. If we could access even a fraction of that data, we could cripple Imperial operations for years. But it's also one of the most heavily fortified facilities in the Empire, Draven added. Shield gate in orbit, ground-based shield generator, garrison of 30,000 troops, Inquisitor presence and proximity to core worlds means rapid reinforcement. Hitting Scarif would be a suicide mission. Unless we had inside help, Kale said slowly. He pulled up a separate file, heavily encrypted, marked with rebel intelligence classifications. We've been cultivating an asset. Imperial security designer named Galen Erso. He's been forced to work on weapons projects, but he's sympathetic to our cause. His last communication indicated he'd hidden a critical flaw in something called the Death Star, a battle station capable of destroying planets. The Avengers went very still. Another one? Tony's voice was tight. They're building another planet killer after Alderaan. The first was destroyed at the Battle of Yavin, a rebel victory years ago. But the Empire immediately began construction on a second, larger Death Star. Urso's information could provide the key to destroying it before it becomes operational. But the data is on Scarif, buried in the archives under maximum security. Thor's eyes blazed with lightning. Then we take this Scarif, we retrieve this information, and we ensure no more worlds die as Alderaan did. It's not that simple, Obi-Wan warned. Scarif is defended by Death Troopers, elite soldiers far superior to standard stormtroopers. The archives themselves are protected by advanced encryption and physical security measures. And the director of the facility, Orson Krennic, is ruthlessly paranoid and competent. There's also the matter of the shield gate, Layra interjected, having joined the strategic discussion. It's a massive orbital platform that projects a planetary shield. Nothing gets through without proper clearance codes. Breaching it would require either capturing an Imperial shuttle with valid codes or... She trailed off, looking uncomfortable. Or destroying it, Natasha finished. Taking out a space station. That's aggressive even for us. We've fought in space before, Tony said. The Battle of New York, the final fight with Thanos. But those were in our universe, with physics we understood. Space combat here, with hyperdrives, turbolasers, TIE fighters. That's different. I can assist with that, Kale offered. I've been studying your technology, your combat patterns. If you give me access to your armor systems, Mr. Stark, I might be able to create interface protocols that let you control captured Imperial ships or weapons. Tony's expression was skeptical. You want me to let you into my systems? No offense, but I've been burned by that before. Ultron, if you know the reference. I don't, but I understand paranoia, especially justified paranoia. Kale's eyes held sincerity mixed with desperation. I'm not asking for core access. Just peripheral systems, sensor integration, weapons targeting, communication protocols. Enough to let you function in space combat scenarios using Imperial tech as force multipliers. I'll consider it, Tony said noncommittally. But first, we need to discuss whether hitting Scarif is even viable. Cap? Steve had been studying the holographic displays with the intensity that meant his tactical mind was working overtime, processing thousands of variables. It's high risk, high reward. But if this Death Star intelligence is accurate, we can't ignore it. 2 billion people died on Alderaan. How many more will die if this second Death Star becomes operational? Billions, Senator Morellon said quietly. The Emperor uses it as a terror weapon. Planets that resist, systems that harbor rebels, species he deems undesirable, all targets. With a functional Death Star, resistance becomes meaningless. He can destroy entire civilizations on a whim. Wanda's chaos magic flickered around her hands, barely controlled. Then we stop him. We get that information, find the weakness, and destroy his weapon before he can use it. I admire your conviction, Obi-Wan said. But understand what you're proposing. Scarif isn't Wobani. There's no sneaking in and out. This would be a full-scale assault requiring ships, pilots, ground forces. The rebellion would have to commit everything. If you fail, if the Empire destroys the assault force, the rebellion dies with it. And if we don't try? Bruce asked, his voice strained. If we play it safe, while the Empire builds its planet killer and uses it, how do we live with that? The question hung in the air, unanswerable and absolute. Colonel Drevin broke the silence. I say we do it. We've been waiting for an opportunity like this. Powerful allies, strategic intelligence, momentum on our side. We commit the fleet, launch a full assault on Scarif, and either we win or we go down fighting. That's not a strategy. That's a death wish, Clint pointed out. Maybe, Drevin acknowledged. But it's a death wish with purpose, and sometimes that's all soldiers can ask for. Tony pulled up his own tactical analysis, Friday running simulations in real time. Okay, Let's game this out. Assume we assault Scarif. We need to 1. Breach the shield gate or steal clearance codes. 2. Land ground forces to infiltrate the archives. 3. Extract the data while holding off Imperial response. 4. Extract all forces before reinforcements arrive. Friday estimates we have a 90-minute window from initial breach to overwhelming Imperial counterattack. That's not a lot of time. We split into teams, Steve said, his command voice taking over. Infiltration team gets the data. Space team handles the shield gate and covers extraction. Ground team holds the landing zone against Imperial forces. We coordinate timing so everything happens simultaneously. Maximum chaos, minimum opportunity for Imperial command to respond effectively. Who leads what team? Natasha asked. Steve considered. Infiltration needs stealth and technical expertise. Nat, you lead. Take Vision for phasing through security, Wanda for breach work, and Strange for emergency extraction. Space team needs firepower and adaptability. Tony, you command. Take Thor for raw power against capital ships. Ground team holds against an army. I'll take that one, with Clint and Bruce. You're putting yourself in the most dangerous position, Morellin observed. That's what I do, Steve said simply. Someone has to hold the line while the real work gets done. I've been holding lines since 1942. I'm good at it. What about me? Lyra asked. I know Imperial protocols, facility layouts. I should be with the infiltration team. Natasha nodded. Agreed. You're our native guide. 5-person infiltration team. We'll need rebel forces for this to work, Drevin said. My pilots can engage Imperial fleet elements, but they're outgunned 10-1. Without your support in space, Stark, they'll be slaughtered. Then I guess I'd better not let them down, Tony said. Friday, start running combat simulations. Imperial Star Destroyer versus Mark 85 armor. I want to know every weak point, every vulnerability, every tactical option. Already on it, boss. Preliminary analysis suggests concentrated repulsor fire can disable shield generators if you can get close enough. The trick is surviving point defense turbo laser batteries long enough to reach optimal range. We'll manage, Tony said with more confidence than he felt. Obi-Wan watched them plan with an expression that mixed pride and sorrow. You understand, this might be a one-way mission. That the Empire could destroy you all? We've been on one-way missions before, Clint said. Somehow we keep making it back. The Force is uncertain where you're concerned, Obi-Wan admitted. I cannot see your futures clearly. You exist as probability voids, blank spaces in the cosmic pattern. That makes you unpredictable, to the Empire and to me. Whether that's an advantage or a fatal weakness, I cannot say. Then we'll find out together, Steve said. He looked at each of his teammates, reading their determination, their fear, their absolute commitment. Scarif is the target. We go in, we get the data, we get out. We do this for every world the Empire might destroy, for Alderaan's 2 billion dead, for the 30,000 we freed from Wobani, for everyone counting on the rebellion to succeed. Avengers, Thor intoned, Stormbreaker humming with barely contained power. When do we strike? Senator Maryland consulted her intelligence reports. We need time to position the fleet, coordinate rebel cells, ensure ground forces can reach Scarif without Imperial detection. 3 days. We attack in 3 days. Then we have 3 days to prepare, Steve said. Train, coordinate, make peace with whatever gods we believe in. Because in 3 days, we're going to war. The meeting dispersed, each person moving to their preparations. But Strange remained, floating in meditation, his consciousness spanning dimensions as he calculated probabilities. You sense something, Obi-Wan said quietly, approaching the Sorcerer Supreme. A disturbance, Strange replied, his eyes still closed. The Emperor knows we're planning something. He can't see the details. Vision and Wanda's collaboration is creating enough interference. But he knows something significant is coming. He's preparing counters. Can you see what counters? Strange's eyes opened, glowing with golden light. No, but I see darkness. A trap within a trap within a trap. Palpatine isn't just defending Scarif. He's using it as bait. He wants us to come. Then we don't go, Obi-Wan said immediately. We have to, Strange countered. The Death Star plans are real. The threat is real. If we don't act, billions die. But if we do act, we walk into a carefully prepared ambush. He looked at the old Jedi. Tell me, Obi-Wan, how do you fight an enemy who can see every move you make before you make it? You make moves that don't matter, Obi-Wan said slowly. You commit to actions you're willing to sacrifice, and you hide your true strike until the moment it lands. He paused. Or you trust in the Force, and in companions who exist outside its sight. You, Strange, and your Avengers. Your variables Palpatine can't fully predict. That's your greatest weapon. Or our greatest vulnerability, Strange said. Because we're learning the rules of this universe as we fight, while the Emperor has mastered them over decades. Then you'd better learn fast, Obi-Wan said grimly. Because in 3 days, you'll face him at his strongest, in a battle he's designed specifically to destroy you. In the Imperial Palace on Coruscant, Emperor Palpatine stood before a holographic display showing Scarif's defenses. Every gun emplacement, every shield generator, every squadron of TIE fighters, all marked and accounted for. But there was more. Hidden deployments, secret weapons, fail-safes within fail-safes. They will come, he said to the holographic image of Darth Vader. Their nature demands it. They are heroes, and heroes cannot ignore the suffering of others. They will see Scarif as necessary, the Death Star plans as crucial. They will commit everything. And then, my master? Vader's mechanical voice asked. Palpatine's smile was ancient, terrible, and absolutely certain. Then I will show them the true power of the dark side. I will break them, turn them, or destroy them. Either way, they will serve my purposes. The witch's reality-warping power, the machine man's mind stone, the god's divine energy, all will be mine. What if they escape? What if they succeed? They won't. Palpatine's yellow eyes glowed with dark power. Because I've seen how this ends, Lord Vader. I've looked into futures they cannot imagine. And in every path, in every possibility, Scarif becomes their tomb. The rebellion's final stand. The Avengers' ultimate defeat. He gestured, and the hologram shifted to show the orbital shield gate, and the massive, moon-sized shape behind it, still under construction, but already functional in its critical systems. The Death Star. Let them come for the plans, Palpatine whispered. Let them believe they're winning. And when they're committed, when retreat is impossible, I'll activate the weapon. Not to destroy Scarif, that would be wasteful. No, I'll demonstrate its power on a nearby rebel world. Let them watch billions die because they chose to attack. Let them feel the weight of their heroic choices. And if they fight through that, if their power proves sufficient, then you will be there, my apprentice. You and 3 full legions of death troopers and the Inquisitorius and every weapon I've prepared for this moment. You will capture the witch and the machine man alive. The others, Palpatine waved dismissively. Do with them as you will. Break them, kill them. Let them watch as I turn their companions into instruments of darkness. I care not. As you command, my master. The transmission ended. Palpatine stood alone, staring at the holographic display, his withered hands clasped behind his back. 3 days, he whispered to the empty throne room. In 3 days, the Avengers learn what every Jedi learned before them. That hope is the cruelest lie. That resistance is futile. That the dark side always wins. His laughter echoed through the palace, cold and merciless, and absolutely assured of victory. The trap was set. The pieces were moving. And in 3 days, the Battle of Scarif would determine the fate of a galaxy. The rebel fleet emerged from hyperspace above Scarif like a swarm of desperate hope. 40 capital ships, corvettes, frigates, cruisers salvaged from a dozen conflicts, faced an Imperial defense force 10 times their size. The shield gate hung in orbit, a massive ring-shaped station projecting an impenetrable barrier over the planet's surface. Beyond it, star destroyers maintained formation, their wedge-shaped hulls bristling with weapons. And behind everything, partially hidden by the planet's curvature, hung something that made even the Avengers pause. The Death Star, fully operational. "That's not in the intelligence reports," Tony said tightly, his armor's sensors screaming warnings. "That thing's supposed to be under construction, incomplete, years from deployment." "The Emperor lied," Strange said, his voice hollow. "Or accelerated construction. Either way, we're looking at a fully armed and operational battle station." "Can it fire?" Steve asked over the comm, his team already in dropships heading planetside. "Friday's detecting massive power generation," Tony replied. "That super laser is active. If they fire it at this range..." "They won't." Obi-Wan's voice cut through, transmitted from the rebel flagship. "Not while their own forces are engaged. Palpatine wants you alive, wants to capture your abilities. He'll use the Death Star as intimidation, but not immediately as a weapon." "Comforting," Clint muttered from his position in Steve's dropship. "We're only facing conventional overwhelming force, not planet-destroying superweapons." "All ships, engage." Admiral Radis, the rebel fleet commander, a Mon Calamari with decades of military experience, ordered. "Draw Imperial fire away from the infiltration team. For the rebellion, for freedom." The rebel fleet surged forward, and space erupted in violence. Turbo lasers lanced through the void, emerald and crimson bolts the size of buildings carving through vacuum. Star destroyers rotated to bring broadside batteries to bear, each ship mounting enough firepower to glass a continent. TIE fighters launched in screaming swarms, their twin-ion engines creating a cacophony that resonated even through the vacuum via comm interference. Tony shot forward, repulsors blazing, weaving through the furball with precision that made human pilots look like stationary targets. "Friday, target that Star Destroyer's shield generator. I need a precision strike." "Calculating approach vector, boss. Warning, 37 TIE fighters have locked onto your position." "I noticed." Tony inverted, spinning through a barrel roll that brought him face to face with pursuing fighters. His micro-missiles deployed, each one tracking independently. 37 explosions blossomed as TIE fighters disintegrated, their light armor no match for Stark technology. But for everyone he destroyed, 3 more appeared. The Empire had seemingly infinite reserves. Thor flew beside him, Stormbreaker blazing with lightning. Unlike Tony, the God of Thunder didn't dodge. He simply tanked hits, letting turbolaser bolts splash harmlessly against Asgardian durability. When he struck back, his lightning arced between ships, chain-linking through formations and frying systems. "Stark!" Thor's voice boomed across the comm. "I shall clear a path to yon Star Destroyer. Follow in my wake." "That's not how space combat works. You know what? Never mind." Tony followed as Thor became a thunderbolt made flesh, a living missile that slammed into the Star Destroyer's shields with force that made the massive ship shudder. The shields buckled, fluctuated. Tony fired his unibeam, concentrated arc reactor energy punching through the weakened barrier. The shield generator exploded in a shower of sparks, and suddenly, a 1,000-meter section of the Star Destroyer was vulnerable. All fighters, concentrate fire on that Star Destroyer, Admiral Raddus ordered. Bring it down. But the Empire adapted instantly. 2 more Star Destroyers rotated into position, their shields overlapping to protect the damaged vessel. Turbo laser batteries opened up, and the rebel fighters that had moved to exploit the opening were cut down like wheat before a scythe. "We can't win this," Tony admitted, dodging a barrage that would have vaporized him. "They have too many ships, too much firepower. We're barely denting them." "We don't need to win," Obi-Wan reminded him. "We need to survive long enough for the infiltration team to succeed." On the planet's surface, Steve's dropship crashed through the shield. Admiral Raddus had transmitted stolen clearance codes that bought them seconds of access before Imperial command revoked them. The transport skimmed over tropical waters, heading for Scarif's Imperial facility, a massive complex that sprawled across an island, all sharp angles and brutal efficiency. 30 seconds to landing zone, the rebel pilot announced. "Security's going to know we're here the moment we touch down. Then we make it fast," Steve said. He looked at his team, Clint checking arrows, Bruce breathing deeply to maintain control, 24 rebel commandos checking weapons. "Ground team's job is simple. Secure the landing zone, hold against Imperial counterattack, protect the infiltration team's exit route. Non-negotiable, we do not leave anyone behind." "Aye, aye, Cap," Clint said. The dropship's ramp dropped, and they were moving. The landing zone was a beach of pristine white sand. Beautiful, if you ignored the automated gun turrets swiveling to target them. Steve's shield took the first burst of fire, the vibranium ringing like a bell. He was already running, closing distance, hurling the shield to take out the nearest turret. It ricocheted, struck a second turret, and returned to his hand as rebel commandos spread out in textbook assault formation. "Contacts," a commando called. "Stormtroopers, 200 meters and closing." White-armored soldiers emerged from bunkers and fortified positions, disciplined and well-trained. But these weren't the garrison troops from Wobani. These were elite security forces, and they moved with practiced coordination that spoke of actual combat experience. Steve's tactical mind processed the battlefield. "Clint, high ground, that tower. Give us overwatch. Commandos, establish perimeter. Bruce, I know." Bruce's eyes were already green. "Hold them off. Try not to level the island." The transformation was faster than usual, the Hulk emerging in a burst of gamma radiation and rage. He didn't wait for orders. He simply charged, a green juggernaut that hit the Imperial line like a meteor. Stormtroopers fired, their blasters leaving scorch marks on green skin that regenerated instantly. Then the Hulk was among them, each punch sending soldiers flying, each roar shaking the ground. Hulk smash Empire. Steve worked in tandem with the Hulk, using the chaos to advance positions. His shield took down soldiers, his fists and feet dropped others. The rebel commandos followed, disciplined fire cutting down stormtroopers who tried to flank. But the Empire had prepared for this. AT-STs emerged from hangar complexes, their chin-mounted weapons targeting the Hulk. The green giant roared, caught a walker's leg, and simply ripped it off. The AT-ST collapsed, but 3 more advanced, supported by 2 full companies of death troopers. The Empire's elite special forces in black armor, carrying weapons that fired with far more precision and power than standard blasters. "Death troopers," a commando screamed before a shot took him down. "They're bringing in..." The sentence ended in an explosion. Steve looked up to see something new descending from the sky. Imperial hover tanks, repulsor-lifted weapons platforms mounting heavy cannons. They opened fire, and the beach became hell. Clint's arrows flew from his tower position, each shot carefully calculated. An explosive arrow took out a hover tank. An EMP arrow disabled an AT-ST systems, but for every threat he eliminated, 2 more appeared. "Cap, we're getting surrounded," Clint called. "They're bringing up reinforcements from the main complex. Estimate 3,000 troops converging on our position." "Then we hold for 3,000, Steve said, deflecting a plasma bolt that would have taken a commando's head off. "Infiltration team, status?" Inside the archives facility, Natasha led her team through corridors that mixed Imperial brutality with technological elegance. Vision phased through security doors, bypassing locks and alarms. Wanda's chaos magic disabled security cameras and disrupted sensors. Strange maintained defensive wards, ready to portal them out at a moment's notice. Lyra guided them through the complex with intimate knowledge of Imperial protocols. "Data vault is 3 levels down," Lyra said, checking her datapad. "Security's heightened. They know we're here. We'll face resistance." "Let them come," Wanda said, her eyes glowing scarlet. "They can't stop us." They descended via maintenance shafts, bypassing the main corridors where stormtroopers were converging. The data vault itself was a chamber of servers and storage systems, glowing with the blue light of holographic interfaces. At its center, a cylindrical device held what they'd come for: the Death Star plans, every schematic, every weakness Galen Erso had deliberately built into the station. "There," Vision said, his hand interfacing with the system. "I'm accessing the files now. The encryption is..." He paused. "Impressive. Imperial security is more sophisticated than anticipated. Give me 2 minutes." "We don't have 2 minutes," Natasha said, her widow's bites crackling as the vault doors exploded inward. Director Orson Krennic stood in the doorway, flanked by death troopers whose weapons were already trained on them. He was younger than expected, dressed in a white cape that marked him as senior Imperial command, his expression mixing arrogance with genuine intelligence. 2 minutes would be too generous anyway, Krennic said smoothly. "You've walked into a very carefully prepared trap. The Emperor sends his regards." Strange's hands blazed with golden light. "We're not leaving without those plans." "Oh, you're not leaving at all," Krennic replied. "Lord Vader is en route with 3 full Inquisitor teams. This facility is surrounded by 10,000 troops. Your ships in orbit are being destroyed as we speak. And the Death Star," he smiled, cold and predatory, "is preparing to fire. Not at Scarif. That would be wasteful. No, we're targeting a nearby rebel world. 3 billion inhabitants, all dead in seconds, because you chose to attack." Wanda's chaos magic exploded outward, raw fury and power. Krennic's death troopers fired, but their shots dissolved in red energy. She advanced, her eyes blazing with rage that transcended reason. "You want to threaten worlds? Threaten billions?" Her voice was distorted, harmonics of chaos magic making reality tremble. "I've lost everything. My home, my brother, people I loved. You think threatening more death will make me stop?" Her magic caught Krennic, lifted him off the ground. His confident smirk vanished, replaced by genuine fear as reality warped around him. "Wanda, no." Strange's voice cut through. "That's what he wants. What the Emperor wants. He's trying to make you lose control, turn you into something dark. He's threatening 3 billion people." Wanda screamed, and the facility shook, walls cracking under the strain of uncontrolled chaos magic. "And if you kill him in rage, If you let darkness consume you, those people die anyway. Strange's hands wove patterns, trying to contain her power. The Emperor wants you unstable, wants proof that your chaos can't be controlled. Don't give him that. For a heartbeat, Wanda stood on a knife's edge, rage pulling her toward darkness, her companions' voices pulling her back. Then, Vision phased through the floor, his hand reaching for hers, the Mind Stone's golden light mixing with her scarlet energy. "Wanda," he said simply, "come back." The chaos magic stabilized, coalesced, returned to controlled fury instead of wild destruction. Krennic dropped, gasping. Wanda's eyes returned to normal, though tears streamed down her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I almost—" "But you didn't," Natasha said firmly. "Now let's get those plans and get out of here." Vision's hand remained in the Imperial system. "Download complete. I have the Death Star schematics, including Galen Erso's intentional design flaw. A thermal exhaust port, ray-shielded but vulnerable to proton torpedoes. One successful strike triggers a chain reaction." "That's all we needed," Lyra said. "Now we run." Strange opened a portal back to the landing zone, but as the golden circle formed, it flickered, destabilized. His expression went pale. "Something's interfering. The dark side, it's disrupting. Dimensional manipulation." "Vader," Natasha breathed. A lightsaber ignited in the corridor behind them, crimson blade casting blood-red light. Darth Vader strode forward, flanked by 7 Inquisitors, whose spinning lightsabers created a wall of plasma. His presence was suffocating, a weight of darkness that pressed against their minds. "You have something that belongs to the Empire," Vader said, his mechanical voice absolute. "Surrender it, and you may die quickly." "Third option," Natasha said, raising her weapons. "We fight our way out, and you get nothing." Vader's lightsaber swept in a gesture of dismissal. "Then you die slowly." The Inquisitors attacked as one, 7 Force users moving with supernatural coordination. Strange's defensive wards caught 3 lightsabers, golden magic sparking against plasma. Vision phased through attacks, his density-shifted form untouchable. Wanda's chaos magic created barriers that even lightsabers struggled to penetrate. But Vader was the real threat. He moved through their defenses like smoke, his force precognition letting him anticipate every attack. His lightsaber carved through Strange's wards, forcing the Sorcerer Supreme back. His telekinesis caught Vision mid-phase, forcing him solid, vulnerable. His presence in the Force pressed against Wanda, finding the cracks in her control, exploiting her emotional vulnerability. "You are powerful," Vader acknowledged, his blade at Wanda's throat. "But power without training is nothing. Surrender, and I will teach you to use your gifts properly." "I'd rather die," Wanda spat. "That can be arranged." A repulsor beam screamed through the facility wall, vaporizing Durasteel. Tony Stark crashed through in his armor, every weapon system active. "Hey, Vader, remember me. We have unfinished business." Thor followed, Stormbreaker blazing with lightning. "As do we, Dark Lord. It seems fate demands our battle conclude." Vader's attention split, exactly the opening Strange needed. He wove a spell of binding, golden chains erupting from the floor to wrap around 3 Inquisitors. Vision's Mind Stone fired, a beam of concentrated energy that forced Vader to dodge. Wanda's chaos magic surged, reality warping around the remaining Inquisitors. "Go!" Tony shouted. "Get those plans to the fleet. We'll hold them off." "We're not leaving you," Natasha protested. "You don't have a choice." Strange's portal stabilized, his will overcoming the dark side interference through sheer stubborn determination. "The plans matter more than any of us. Go, now." Natasha grabbed Lyra. Vision phased them both, and Wanda's magic carried them through the portal. It snapped shut, cutting off Vader's force grip that had been reaching for them. The Dark Lord turned his full attention to the three Avengers remaining: Tony, Thor, and Strange, facing Vader and 4 Inquisitors in close quarters. "You think you can defeat me?" Vader asked. "You, who barely survived our first encounter?" "We've learned a few things since then," Tony said, and his armor reconfigured into its space configuration, weapon systems deploying. "Friday, full assault pattern. Let's see how the Dark Lord handles arc reactor technology." The facility exploded into chaos. On the surface, Steve's ground team was being overwhelmed. 3,000 stormtroopers had become 5,000. AT-STs had arrived, their massive forms shrugging off conventional fire. The Hulk was holding the line, but even his strength had limits, and the Death Troopers had brought specialized weapons, sonic cannons that disrupted cellular cohesion, forcing even the Hulk to feel pain. "Cap, we can't hold much longer," Clint shouted, his last arrows depleting. "Where's the extraction?" The rebel dropships descended through heavy fire, Admiral Raddus sacrificing fighters to create an opening. "All ground teams, evacuate. We have the plans. Mission accomplished." Steve grabbed a wounded commando, carrying him toward the ships even as blaster fire burned past his head. The shield deflected what it could, but there was too much incoming fire, too many angles. Then the sky lit up. The Death Star's super laser fired, not at Scarif, not at the rebel fleet, but at Jedha, a moon in a nearby system, a rebel sympathizer world, home to 3 billion souls. The green beam struck, and the moon simply ceased to exist, exploded into debris, every life extinguished in a moment. 3 billion people dead, because the rebellion had dared to fight back. Steve stared in horror, his shield lowering. Around him, rebels and even some stormtroopers stopped fighting, all eyes fixed on the orbital display showing Jedha's destruction. "My God," Steve whispered. "They actually did it." In orbit, the Death Star rotated, its super laser recharging, and through every comm channel, every frequency, Emperor Palpatine's voice broadcast. "Rebellion forces, you have 60 seconds to surrender unconditionally, or I destroy Scarif with all forces, yours and mine, still on it. I care not for the lives of my troops. They serve the Empire. 60 seconds. Choose." Admiral Raddus stared at the Death Star, at his fleet being destroyed piece by piece, at the impossible choice. If he evacuated, he saved his forces, but confirmed that the threat of planetary destruction could break the rebellion's will. If he stayed, everyone died, and the plans with them. "All ships," he said, his voice heavy. "Retreat to hyperspace. We've accomplished the mission. We have the plans. The rebellion survives another day." "What about the ground teams?" someone protested. "The ground teams are soldiers. They knew the risks." Steve heard the transmission, understood what it meant. They were being left behind. "Avengers," he said calmly into his comm. "Extraction's not coming. We're on our own." "Then we fight to the last," Thor's voice came back, breathless from his battle with Vader. "It has been an honor, my friends." "It's not over yet." Strange's voice cut through. "I'm opening portals. Everyone who can, get through now." Golden circles erupted across the battlefield, on the beach, in the archives, in orbit where Tony and Thor fought. Strange was stretching his abilities to the absolute limit, maintaining dozens of portals simultaneously while still fighting Inquisitors. "Go," Steve ordered his team. "Through the portals. Move." The rebels and Avengers fled through Strange's escape routes, emerging on ships accelerating toward hyperspace. The Hulk grabbed a handful of wounded commandos and leapt through. Clint dove through while firing a final arrow. Steve was the last, shield held high, protecting the retreat until every soldier was clear. Then he jumped, and the portal snapped shut. The Death Star's countdown reached 0. But Palpatine didn't fire. He stood in the Death Star's command center, staring at the empty beach, the evacuated facility, the rebel fleet vanishing into hyperspace with his prize. And he smiled. "Let them go," he said to the confused command staff. "Let them believe they've won. Let them celebrate their theft of the plans, their rescue of their forces, their defiance of the Empire's might." "My lord?" Grand Moff Tarkin questioned. "They have the Death Star specifications. They'll find the flaw, exploit it." "Precisely," Palpatine interrupted. "They will find what I wanted them to find, a flaw that appears exploitable, a weakness that invites attack. And when they commit their fleet to destroying this battle station," his smile widened, ancient and terrible, "they will discover that the flaw is a trap, that I have anticipated their every move, that their heroic assault will become a slaughter that breaks the rebellion's back forever." He turned to Vader, who had emerged from the facility battered but alive. "They are learning, my apprentice, growing stronger, but strength without wisdom is hubris, and hubris is the path to destruction." "What if they see through the deception?" Vader asked. "They won't, because I've had 20 years to perfect this trap, and they've had 3 days to learn the rules of this galaxy." Palpatine's yellow eyes gleamed. "The Avengers believe they can win through courage and power. The rebellion believes hope and sacrifice matter. I will teach them the truth, that the dark side always wins. Always." On the rebel flagship, the Avengers reunited, exhausted but alive. Natasha handed Admiral Raddus a data cylinder containing the Death Star plans. The Mon Calamari held it like it was made of glass. 3 billion people died on Jedha, Raddus said quietly. "So we could get this. So many lives for one chance." "Then we make sure it counts," Steve said, his voice iron despite his exhaustion. "We study those plans. We find that weakness, and we destroy that station before it kills again." "Agreed," Raddus said. "This data goes to our best analysts immediately. We'll find the flaw, plan the assault, and—" "Wait," Strange interrupted, his eyes distant with mystical sight. "Something's wrong. The futures I'm seeing, they're all converging on a single outcome. Regardless of what choices we make, the paths lead to the same ending." "What ending?" Wanda asked, dread in her voice. Strange's expression was troubled. "A trap. We're walking into a trap and I can't see how to avoid it. The Emperor, he wanted us to get those plans. This entire battle, Jedha's destruction, all of it was orchestrated to push us toward a specific action. The Death Star assault," Vision concluded. "He wants us to attack using the plans we stole, which means—" "The flaw's fake," Tony finished, his face pale. "Or it's real, but leads to something worse. Jesus. He played us from the start." Thor's hand tightened on Stormbreaker. "Then what do we do? Stand aside and let him destroy worlds? Allow 3 billion more to die as Jedha did?" "No," Steve said, his jaw set. "We do what we always do. We know it's a trap, so we prepare for it. We go in with our eyes open, and we fight through whatever he's planned. Because the alternative is surrender, and Avengers don't surrender." Obi-Wan, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. "You're choosing to walk into certain danger, knowing the Emperor has prepared counters for everything you might do." "That's the job," Clint said with a sardonic smile. "We're not great at staying safe." The old Jedi looked at each of them. These warriors from another reality. these beings who wielded power that shouldn't exist. These heroes who refused to back down despite impossible odds. And despite everything he'd seen, despite all the loss and darkness and betrayal the galaxy had shown him, he felt something he hadn't felt in 20 years. Hope. "Then may the Force be with you," Obi-Wan said simply. "All of you. Because you're going to need every advantage you can get." The Rebel fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying the Death Star plans and the galaxy's last hope for freedom. Behind them, Scarif stood intact, a message in itself. The Empire had let them go, had allowed the theft, had orchestrated the entire sequence of events. And waiting in the shadows between the stars, Emperor Palpatine prepared his final trap. The briefing room aboard the Rebel flagship was silent as the Death Star plans rotated in holographic display. Every technical specification, every structural weakness laid bare. The exhaust port Galen Erso had identified sat there in the projection, 2 meters wide, ray-shielded but vulnerable, leading directly to the station's main reactor. One precise shot, and the Empire's ultimate weapon would destroy itself from within. It looked perfect. Too perfect. "It's bait," Steve said, breaking the silence. "We all know it. Palpatine wanted us to find this. He's counting on us to attack." "But can we afford not to?" Senator Marilyn asked, her voice heavy with the weight of command. "Jedha is gone. 3 billion souls. The Emperor has demonstrated he will use the Death Star without hesitation. If we don't act, how many more worlds die?" Thor stood, lightning crackling softly along Stormbreaker's blade. "I say we accept his challenge. Let the Emperor prepare his traps and schemes. We are Avengers. We have faced impossible odds before and emerged victorious. Let him bring his dark side, his Sith powers, his Imperial might. We will meet them all and prove that tyranny, no matter how powerful, cannot stand against those willing to sacrifice everything for freedom." "Inspiring speech," Tony said, though his voice lacked its usual sarcasm. "But let's be tactical about this. Friday's been analyzing the plans for inconsistencies, hidden systems, anything that might indicate a trap within the trap. So far," he paused, frustrated, "nothing. Either it's exactly what it appears to be, or the Emperor's deception is so sophisticated we can't detect it. Or both," Strange suggested, floating cross-legged in meditation. The flaw could be real. Galen Erso was genuine in his sabotage. But the Emperor, once he learned of it, chose not to fix it. Instead, he's turned it into the ultimate lure, knowing that any rebellion worth its name would have to attempt the strike. Visions. Mind Stone glowed as he processed possibilities. Tactically, the Empire's optimal strategy would be to allow our assault to proceed to the final stage, then spring whatever countermeasures exist. Maximum psychological impact, we believe we're succeeding, commit everything, then face total defeat at the moment of apparent victory. "So we're damned if we attack and damned if we don't," Clint summarized. "Great. My favorite kind of mission." "Not necessarily," Natasha said, her tactical mind working through scenarios. "The Emperor's strongest weapon is precognition, seeing futures, planning for every contingency. But Strange has confirmed that we exist as probability anomalies in the Force. We're variables he can't fully predict. If we can create enough chaos, enough unpredictability, we might slip through gaps in his planning." "That's a lot of maybes," Bruce said quietly, though his eyes held determination. "But we've built a career on maybes. Maybe we can stop Loki. Maybe we can close the portal. Maybe we can lift the city. Maybe we can beat Thanos." He looked at each of them. "We've been the maybe that becomes reality before. We can do it again." Steve stood, his presence commanding attention without effort. Here's what I know. The Death Star is real. The threat is real. 3 billion people died because we dared to resist. If we stand down, if we let fear of the Emperor's trap paralyze us, then we're already defeated. The Avengers don't work that way. We see the threat, we assess the risk, and we act. Sometimes we win, sometimes we lose, but we always show up. He looked at Admiral Raddus, at Senator Morellin, at the assembled rebel leadership. This is your galaxy, your war, your choice. But if you're asking whether the Avengers will stand with you against impossible odds, against an enemy who's planned for everything, against a tyrant with the power to destroy worlds, his jaw set. The same determination that had carried him through 70 years, frozen through the fall of S.H.I.E.L.D., through half the universe dying. Then the answer is yes. We fight, together, until the end, whatever that end looks like. Thor clasped Steve's shoulder, lightning crackling between them in a display of solidarity. Well spoken, Captain. I stand with you, as do the 9 realms in spirit. Let the Emperor learn what Asgard has always known, that honor and courage matter more than power. I'm in, Tony said, his armor forming around him. Though I reserve the right to say, I told you so, if this goes sideways. When has anything we've done not gone sideways? Clint grinned. That's basically our signature move. Wanda's eyes glowed scarlet, chaos magic swirling around her hands. The Emperor thinks he can use fear to control the galaxy. He thinks destroying worlds will break people's spirits. He's wrong. Every atrocity just makes the will to resist stronger. Jedha's 3 billion deserve justice. We're going to give it to them. One by one, each Avenger committed. Vision with logical certainty. Strange with mystical determination. Natasha with professional calculation. Bruce with reluctant but absolute resolve. Admiral Raddus stood, his alien features unreadable but his voice carrying conviction. Then the rebellion commits as well. Every ship, every pilot, every soldier. We assault the Death Star. We exploit the weakness. We destroy the station or die trying. This is our moment. The point where we either rise to history's challenge or fade into darkness. I choose to rise. The planning took hours. The assault would be two-pronged. A space battle to occupy the Imperial fleet, while a fighter squadron, led by the most skilled rebel pilots with Avenger support, made the trench run to the exhaust port. It was desperate, dangerous, and exactly the kind of plan that had defined the rebellion from the beginning. As the briefing ended and teams dispersed to prepare, Obi-Wan found Steve on an observation deck, staring at the stars. Having doubts? The old Jedi asked. Always, Steve admitted. But doubts don't change what needs to be done. I've led people into battles where I knew some wouldn't come home. It never gets easier. But if I let the weight of that stop me, then everyone loses. The Emperor is counting on your sense of duty, Obi-Wan said. Your inability to stand aside while people suffer. He's weaponized your compassion? Then that's a weapon I'll bear, Steve said. Because the alternative, becoming someone who can ignore suffering, who can calculate lives like numbers on a spreadsheet, that's not victory. That's just a different kind of defeat. Obi-Wan was quiet for a long moment. You remind me of someone I once knew, before he fell, before the dark side consumed him. He was the best of us, brave, powerful, unwilling to accept defeat. But his compassion became attachment, his attachment became fear, and his fear led him to darkness. He looked at Steve with ancient eyes. Anakin Skywalker would have liked you, Captain Rogers. You share his refusal to compromise on principle. What happened to him? He became Darth Vader, Obi-Wan said simply. the greatest Jedi of his generation, now the Empire's enforcer. A lesson that even the best intentions can be corrupted if one walks too close to darkness. "Then we walk carefully," Steve said. "Together, checking each other, pulling each other back when we go too far. That's what makes us Avengers. Not our powers, but our accountability to each other." 24 hours later, the Rebel fleet emerged from hyperspace near the Death Star. The massive battle station hung against the stars like a mechanical moon, its surface bristling with weapons, its super laser capable of destroying worlds. Around it, an Imperial fleet of unprecedented scale. Dozens of star destroyers, hundreds of support ships, thousands of TIE fighters. And on the Death Star's command deck, Emperor Palpatine stood with Darth Vader at his side, watching the Rebel fleet approach with eyes that gleamed with dark anticipation. "They came," Vader observed. "Of course they came," Palpatine replied. "They are heroes. It is their nature to challenge evil, to risk everything for others. They cannot help themselves." His withered hand gestured, and weapon systems across the Imperial fleet activated. "Spring the trap. Let them believe they're succeeding, right up until the moment we destroy them. And Lord Vader," he turned to his apprentice, "the Avengers are yours to capture or kill as you see fit. But I want the Witch and the Machine Man alive. Their powers will make fine additions to my collection. As you command, my master." The battle began. The Rebel fleet charged forward, every ship firing, every pilot willing to sacrifice everything. The Avengers led the assault, Tony and Thor in space, carving through Imperial formations with repulsors and lightning. Vision phasing through star destroyers, disrupting systems from within. Strange, creating portals that allowed Rebel fighters to bypass defensive lines. On the Death Star's surface, Steve's team landed, fighting through hangar bays to create a diversion. Wanda's chaos magic tore through stormtrooper formations. Natasha moved like a shadow, dismantling Imperial defenses with lethal precision. Clint's arrows found targets that seemed impossible. Bruce, finally unleashing the Hulk, became a green wrecking ball that nothing could stop. And in the space battle, a small squadron of Y-wing fighters, escorted by Tony and Thor, made their run on the exhaust port. "Almost there," the squadron leader transmitted. "Approaching target. Lining up shot." That's when the trap sprang. The Death Star's surface erupted with hidden turbolaser batteries, hundreds of them, positioned specifically to target the trench approach. The Y-wings were caught in a kill box, and within seconds, half the squadron was vaporized. "It's a trap!" Admiral Raddus shouted. But the warning came too late. Star destroyers that had appeared damaged, vulnerable, suddenly restored to full power. Their shields reinforced. Their weapons doubled in intensity. The Imperial fleet had been holding back, letting the rebels commit fully before revealing their true strength. And on the Death Star's command deck, Palpatine laughed. "Did they truly believe I would leave my ultimate weapon vulnerable?" he asked the empty air. "That 20 years of planning could be undone by stolen schematics? Fools. Brave fools, but fools nonetheless." The Death Star's super laser rotated, not toward the Rebel fleet, but toward Mon Cala, the aquatic homeworld of Admiral Raddus, the heart of the rebellion's leadership. 5 billion lives, about to be extinguished as an object lesson. "No!" Raddus screamed. "All ships, emergency!" Strange felt it through his mystical senses. The Death Star charging, preparing to fire. He saw the future, saw Mon Cala dying, saw the rebellion spirit breaking, saw the Emperors, trap closing with perfect, terrible precision. And in that moment of absolute crisis, Stephen Strange made a choice. He opened a portal, not to evacuate, not to escape, but directly into the Death Star's reactor core, bypassing every defense, every shield, every layer of protection. And through that portal, he channeled every ounce of power he possessed, drawing from the dimensional planes he knew, from the mystical energies of 1,000 realities, channeling it all into a single, devastating strike. The Death Star's reactor didn't just overload. It detonated in an explosion that lit up space like a newborn star. The station came apart, massive sections breaking free, internal explosions cascading through every deck. Palpatine felt it through the Force, his carefully laid trap, his ultimate weapon, destroying itself from the inside in a way he hadn't foreseen. "Impossible!" he screamed, his calm finally breaking. "This was not... I saw every future. I planned for everything. Except us." Strange's voice came through the Force itself, a whisper that shouldn't have been possible. "We're not from your galaxy, Emperor. Your precognition doesn't account for powers that shouldn't exist. Your dark side doesn't recognize dimensional magic. You planned for everything in your universe, but we're from another one." The Emperor's eyes went wide, genuine fear flickering across his ancient face for the first time in decades. "Vader, get us to..." The explosion reached the command deck. Darth Vader's Force barrier saved them. Barely. He seized his master, used every ounce of dark side power to create a pocket of survivable space, then Force leaped toward an escape pod. They evacuated seconds before that section of the Death Star vaporized. In space, the Imperial fleet recoiled in shock. Their ultimate weapon, their symbol of invincibility, had just been destroyed. Not by proton torpedoes or fighter attacks, but by something they didn't understand. Dimensional magic wielded by beings who refused to follow this galaxy's rules. "All Imperial forces," a shaken commander transmitted. "Emergency retreat. Fall back to Imperial space. The Death Star is..." The transmission dissolved into static. The rebel fleet, shocked into momentary silence, watched as Star Destroyers broke formation and jumped to hyperspace. Watched as TIE fighters fled in disarray. Watched as the remnants of the Death Star tumbled through space, a monument to the fact that even the Empire's greatest achievements could be brought down. On what remained of a hangar bay, the Avengers reunited, staring at the debris field. Strange floated among them, exhausted to the point of collapse, barely conscious. "You destroyed it," Tony said, his voice hollow with shock. "You actually destroyed the whole damn thing." "Had to," Strange whispered. "Emperor was going to fire it, Moncala, billions." Steve caught him before he fell. "You saved them. You saved all of them. At what cost?" Obi-Wan asked, his expression troubled. "You've just demonstrated power on a scale this galaxy has never seen. You've proven that the Avengers can destroy even the Empire's mightiest weapons. Palpatine will never stop hunting you now. You've gone from interesting anomalies to his greatest threat." "Good," Wanda said, her eyes hard. "Let him be afraid for once. Let him understand what it feels like when someone has the power to destroy everything you've built." Admiral Raddus approached, his alien features showing something that might have been reverence. "You saved my world. 5 billion people live because of you. The rebellion lives because of you." He saluted, a gesture of absolute respect. "Whatever you need, wherever you go, the rebellion will follow." "We don't need followers," Steve said. "We need allies, partners, people willing to keep fighting even when we're not around. Because we're still trying to get home. This isn't our galaxy, our war. But you fought for it anyway," Senator Morellon said, tears streaming down her face. "You risked everything for people you'd never met. For a galaxy that wasn't yours to save. That's more than allies. That's family." Thor's laughter boomed across the hangar, his exhaustion giving way to triumph. then let it be known across all the 9 realms and beyond. The Avengers stood with the rebellion. We faced an empire and made it bleed. We destroyed their weapon and broke their myth of invincibility. This day shall be remembered in song and story. In the escape pod, floating among debris, Emperor Palpatine stared at the remains of his Death Star, with eyes that burned with hatred so intense it warped the force around him. "They think they've won," he whispered to Vader. "They think destroying my weapon makes them victorious. But they've only escalated the conflict. They've forced me to accelerate plans I'd reserved for the distant future." "What plans, my master?" Palpatine's smile returned, cold and terrible and absolutely certain. "If conventional power cannot defeat them, if even superweapons fail, then I'll use what has always worked. I'll corrupt them, turn them, make them mine. The witch's chaos magic, combined with the dark side, could tear reality itself apart, with me guiding it. The machine man's mind stone could open doorways to powers beyond imagining. Even the god's Asgardian might could be bent to my will, given time and proper manipulation. And if they resist, then I'll destroy everything they've come to care for in this galaxy. Every rebel, every freed prisoner, every world that's dared to hope because of them, I'll burn it all. And when they're broken, when they've lost everything, when they finally understand that the dark side always wins." Palpatine's eyes glowed with ancient malice. "They'll beg to serve me, just to make the pain stop." But for now, in the hangar bay, surrounded by rebels celebrating their impossible victory, the Avengers stood together, exhausted, battered, missing home, but unbroken. "We did it," Clint said, his voice carrying wonder. "We actually pulled it off." "We did," Steve agreed. "But this is just the beginning. The Emperor's still out there, Vader's still hunting us, and we're still no closer to finding a way home." "Then we keep fighting," Natasha said simply. "Until we find that way home, or until this galaxy doesn't need us anymore. Whichever comes first." Vision looked at the stars, his synthetic mind processing possibilities. "We've changed this reality by being here, altered probabilities, shifted outcomes. I wonder if our universe is experiencing similar changes, variables that shouldn't exist, events that defy prediction." "Maybe," Strange said, finally recovering enough to speak normally. "Or maybe we're exactly where we need to be. The multiverse has a way of putting people where they can make the most difference. We'll get home eventually. But first," he looked at the celebrating rebels, at the hope shining in their eyes. "We have a galaxy to help liberate." "Together," Wanda said, and her chaos magic intertwined with Vision's Mind Stone energy, with Thor's lightning, with the glow of Steve's shield and Tony's arc reactor, creating a display of light that symbolized everything they'd become. Not just Earth's mightiest heroes anymore, but the multiverse's reminder that tyranny, no matter how powerful, no matter how inevitable it seemed, could be resisted, could be challenged, could be defeated. The Galactic Empire had ruled through fear for 2 decades, had crushed every uprising, destroyed every threat, eliminated every hope. Until the Avengers arrived. Until beings from another reality proved that even the dark side could be fought. That even the Emperor could bleed. That even the Death Star could fall. The battle was far from over. Palpatine would regroup, adapt, bring new horrors to bear. Vader would hunt them across the galaxy with single-minded determination. The Empire's war machine would throw everything it had at these dimensional anomalies who dared to challenge its supremacy. But for the first time in 20 years, the galaxy had hope. Real, tangible hope. And hope, once kindled, was the hardest thing in the universe to extinguish. The Avengers didn't know when they'd get home. didn't know if they'd survive the coming battles, didn't know what the Emperor would throw at them next. But they knew this. Wherever tyranny raised its head, wherever innocence needed protection, wherever hope needed defenders, they would be there. Because that's what Avengers did. And the multiverse was infinite, full of realities that needed heroes. This galaxy had just found its